think even you are turning weak. The lips that commanded attention, discipline, and dedication are slowly trembling. The infectious energy that kept the entire home in order is wearing. The ones who took care of us through sickness and health now need care from us. But you cannot be with them all the time. You too have to lay the foundation, pay your taxes, build your own family. You have to now step into your parents' shoes. This is where we at Samarth step in. Present in over 350 cities across India, we extend our services to Indians in over 30 countries. We have a team of more than 350 care professionals and a network of emergency ambulances, hospitals, clinics, and providers across the country to provide healthcare for your loved ones. We help you take care of your parents even when you're not there. We make regular visits, keep a tab on their health and safety, take them for their appointments, help them pursue their interests, provide companionship so they are assured that their children are always around to look after them. We take care of them the way you want to, and we keep you updated from every interaction we have so you don't miss out on anything. With Samarth, you no longer wonder if you're doing enough. You're proud that you're doing so much more. Not just in times of need, but also in times of joy. Samarth makes your best efforts even bigger and your biggest worries a little smaller. Samarth, touching hearts, enriching lives.
A very good afternoon to everyone who's present here and who's joining us through this live screening. I'm Dr. Ananya Avasthi, and I'm delighted to welcome you all to this Times of India Right to Excellence Senior Wellbeing Summit. Starting with a little context. As you know, once our population ages, it becomes increasingly important to ensure that our senior citizens are provided with the best care, opportunities, and quality of life. This multifaceted approach requires the collaborative participation of caregivers, healthcare providers, community workers, and policymakers. Today, we are gathered to discuss the critical issues surrounding elderly care, from healthcare and accessibility to community building and even mental health. We aim to highlight the importance of creating an inclusive environment where our elders can thrive and continue to contribute to the society in a meaningful way. This event brings together experts, influencers, and thought leaders who will share their insights and experiences on how to transform the landscape of senior well-being in India. Finally, the larger aim of this summit is to deliberate on the challenges faced by senior citizens and develop a sustainable roadmap for their well-being. Our goal is to inspire action and foster a community that values and supports its senior members. We hope that today's discussions will lead to meaningful changes and innovations in elder care, ensuring that our seniors lead fulfilling, healthy, and dignified lives. As we get started, we would like to acknowledge the support from our partners, namely Antara by Max Group, Asli, Samarth, Eldercare, and Epoch. Another note, happy to inform that this summit is being live streamed across Times of India website, TOI app, and all the social media handles. So to commence the summit, I would like to, with great pleasure, introduce our keynote speaker, Professor Dr. Anup Mishra, a leading authority in diabetes and obesity research with a distinguished career spanning decades. He currently serves as the Executive Chairman of Fortis Doc Hospital for Diabetes and Allied Sciences and directs the National Diabetes, Obesity, and Cholesterol Foundation. He's also the president of the Diabetes Foundation of India. Dr. Mishra's academic contributions are substantial, with over 350 published research papers, making him one of the top 2% scientists globally across all specialties as per the Stanford University. His work has profoundly influenced the understanding and definition of obesity in India. Sir also serves on the academic board of the British Medical Journal and BMJ's Regional Advisory Board for South Asia. Dr. Mishra is a member of the Lancet Commission on Obesity and has also been recognized with prestigious awards like the Padma Shri and Dr. B.C. Roy Award. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Dr. Professor Anup Mishra to the stage as we eagerly anticipate the enlightening address. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm indeed honored by the invitation of Times of India to give keynote speech. And this is not the first time I'm going to talk about accelerated aging in Indian population. I have talked about a little bit from this topic in various fora. What I'm going to talk about in 15 to 20 minutes will interest all of you. And I see lots of young people here and some older ones. The lecture applies to most of you. And I am very confident that whatever I say will be discussed subsequently by our learned panelists. And I see a lot of learned people here, including Dr. Harsh Mahajan. This is not working. Yeah. Okay, so to begin with, this is something that we know. That we all grow old, some races and individuals age faster than others. And is it that Indians age faster than the other races? I'll show you. A 69-year-old patient asked me, "Doc, I want to live more. How can I add years to my life? I want my life to be long, useful, and not dependent on others." It's a fair question. The answers are never going to be easy. Now, many of you may have seen this particular documentary on Netflix. There's Live to 100, Secrets of Blue Zones. And what are blue zones? Blue zones are these, where lots of people living in these blue zones live to be 100 years or more. Loma Linda, California, Nicoya in Costa Rica, Sardinia in Italy, Ikaria in Greece, and most importantly, Okinawa in Japan. Now, I'll refer to Okinawa subsequently in my discussion. Just take the inhabitants of Okinawa, a small island south of Japan. Now, this is Japan, and this is Okinawa, which is known for many people living up to 100 years or more. And you will find a small Japanese inscription on a small plaque in the village of Ogimi there. And this is the inscription. For those who maybe at the back, you can see this particular inscription, and it is written, "At 80, you are merely a youth. At 90, if your ancestors invite you into heaven, ask them to wait until you are 100, and then you might consider it." Now, this is the type of thing that we often see in Okinawa residents. They are, many of them, most of them are in 80s, 90s, and many of them in hundreds. Now, what is longevity? We all have gathered here to discuss about longevity, but how it is determined and which people or which races or which species live long. So it's a species specific. One thing is sure. And again, front people can see this, and I'll make it clearer to you. You know, whale live up to 200 years to 300 years. And this particular shark lives up to 400 years. And closer to our habitat, the tortoise live up to 100 years to 150 years. But human beings, mostly 80 to 90 years, some beyond 100 years. Now, what determines that? Genes in 25%. Now, there may be specific genes or maybe mixture of genes. And non-genetic factors, 75%. 75% of the non-genetic factors determine our longevity. And these are simple. Our diet, our body, our exercise, and our environment. Now, coming to the genes. Can anybody identify this? Many doctors are present here. This is truly an accelerating aging phenotype. And one actor has personified it, Amitabh Bachchan. This is progeria syndrome. Mutation in a particular gene called lamin A gene, death around 13 years. It's truly accelerated. This person is just 12 years old and had a heart attack when he died at 12 years of age. And there are less severe phenotypes. This one. This particular type of phenotype has been portrayed by another very famous actor, Robin Williams, in Jack. This Werner syndrome, mutation in a particular gene, cancer, heart disease, diabetes, osteoporosis, means bone thinning, death around 40 to 45 years of age. So these are extreme phenotype, a particular genetic abnormality which is rare. It is not common. So genes, they affect the longevity, environment, nutrition, and fitness. And in the body, there are two types of processes which occur. So maybe you will find some medical terms here, but if you go on following what I say, you'll understand everything. Cellular, at the level of cell start to wither away and die. And especially a particular part of the cell, mitochondria, that is important. Mitochondrial dysfunction occurs. And genes, secondarily or primarily, both, they tend to become unstable. And a particular part of the gene called telomere starts to shrink. I'll come to telomere in a while. And once that occurs, the inflammation in the body spreads. It's called inflammaging. Cognitive decline occurs, mental health declines. There is diabetes occurs. About 80% of the people above 70 years of age will have diabetes. Heart disease occurs, cancers, immune decline occurs, and body changes shape, and the fat begins to accumulate in the middle part of the body. Now you'll find this a little bit more medical, but I have put it for the sake of completion because this is something which is altered with the application of right kind of diet. Now this is the pathway for increasing the health span. There are certain factors which are important: IGF-1, AK2, FOXO, mTOR, and SERT. Forget about these complicated names. Just remember that these factors are important for preservation of lifespan. I'll come to this, refer to this once we discuss Okinawa again. Now, several factors of aging are already present in relatively young Indian population. So Indians are aging faster. And what are those factors? Decrease in the physical activity. If we compare the races, Indians are most physically inactive race amongst many of the races. A decrease in the muscle mass. Our muscles are very thin. And so you will see very few world-class athletes coming out from India. Early onset of diabetes and lipid disorders from 20 to 25 ages onwards. This is a sign of early aging. Increased body fat, redistribution of body fat to the abdomen, and our fat cells are disturbed in physiology and function. And possibly, although nobody has proven, our genes are unstable. So genomic instability is there. And we have multiple stressors. We go out on the road, the traffic, the pollution, everything is a stressor. And maybe there are some hormonal dysfunctions and, of course, pollution. These are some of the factors which actually accelerate aging in the Indian population. Now, this is a slide taken from a study which we published 20 years back, a very nice slide on the left side showing all Indian population's body mass index, which is a ratio of weight in kg by height in meter square. It depicts obesity or normal weight. Actually, weight is determined by body mass index. And here are Chinese, Mexican Americans, and then Caucasians and African Americans. So look at the BMI measure of obesity. Our BMI is not very high. But what is high, despite relatively lower BMI, is the body fat. Look at the body fat in the Indian population, 33%, versus if you look at the Africans who are much taller, much heavier, their body fat is lesser. Now this is the culprit. Body fat is the culprit. And if we go further, then abdominal body fat and liver body fat is culprit. I'll show you in the next slide. So look at this liver. And Dr. Mahajan sees such livers every day. A normal liver, relatively healthy liver, and if we measure the length of the liver, which is called liver span, 11 centimeters. It's a normal looking liver. A person is good, well. But what I see every day from morning to evening is this kind of liver, which has twice the size and yellowish and beginning to get fibrotic, means, inside there is damage. And this is one of the crux of the problem. Crux of the problem is liver fat and fibrosis in Indian population. That's where diabetes starts, that's where heart disease starts, that's where many of the other metabolic disturbances start. Now, this is fat cells. These are fat cells. Now, in Indians, fat cells are different from the Western races. They are bigger. What do you mean by bigger? That they attract a lot of inflammation. Now, where is inflammation? Look at this. These are cells which are inflammatory cells. Now, they are not good. They are dirty. And they will eat away the tissue. So, if you look at this, our fat is sick because of lot of inflammation it causes around it, and which is not good at early age, which is not good at late age. Now, what are telomeres? Telomeres are extremely important. The person, if has a longer telomere, has a longer life. So it's something which is not difficult to see. What are telomeres? Now, if you see cells here, nucleus is right here, and chromosome here. Everybody knows chromosomes. But at the end of the chromosome is telomere. And if you look at this, the telomere gradually shrinks as the age goes on, or maybe some people it is shrunken to begin with. And such a race is Indian. So I'm not talking out of the hat. I'm talking based on some of the few studies done in India. And our group is one of them. Look at this particular study which was published in British Medical Journal. In women, we found that those who are obese, have a lot of fat, have shrunken telomere. And these are pre-diabetic. They are not diabetic. So their lifespan is already limited. This is one of the first evidence that we are aging in an accelerated manner as compared to many other races. So solutions are very few known, but much work is being done. So around 12,000 clinical trials on these diseases are going on. Dietary factors, and you will be interested in that, and everybody is interested in that. Dietary factors that affect aging, diet that increase glucose, increase aging. High glycemic index diet, which increase glucose in the blood, increase aging. Dietary protein quality preference for plant-based protein, decrease aging. Now, saturated fat, palmitate is present in palm oil, meats, cheese, butter, and our own very loved ghee. This is something which increases aging. Calorie restriction without compromising nutrient quality. Now, there are some diets which compromise nutrient quality, but some diet where calorie restriction leads to weight loss and may increase aging, may decrease aging. So this increases aging, may decreases aging, and specifically some dietary patterns like Mediterranean diet and Okinawa diet. Okinawa and Mediterranean diet. Look at Mediterranean region here, right? There are so many countries. And this is an example of Mediterranean diet. Favorable effect of these dietary models have been part related to low content of saturated fatty acids, full fat dairy product, animal proteins, refined grains like rice, simple sugars. And I showed you 6 factors which affect the lifespan, FOXO and SERT and so on. Now this is something which affect mTOR pathways and SERT, FOXO, PGC network which increase lifespan. So there is a scientific way of determining which diet work, and certainly these 2 diets are the most famous of the diets. Now they may be applicable to India or may not be applicable, but at least some portion of these diets may be applicable to India. Now what about the fasting? Fasting. Now everybody talks about fasting these days. It is nothing new. Rodents, they eat for 2 hours, fast for 22 hours. It's been a long story since time immemorial. And penguin may remain fasting for several months. What does fasting do to the body? Look at this. This is mice experiment. Now these mice were fasting, intermittent fasting. And these mice were taking ad lib, anything that they wanted. And lifespan, look at the lifespan. Longer lifespan of those mice who underwent intermittent fasting. So fasting is doing something which is good. And this is the pathway through which, I don't want to go into pathway, this scientific pathway, but 3 things. Improved cellular responses, improved intrinsic resistance, and improved nerve regeneration. This is what fasting does. Now, evidence is there for animals. Evidence is not yet there for human beings. So this is something which is important to remember, because you can't do experiment for 100 years. But these animals have a shorter lifespan and you can do experiment quickly. Now, there are several drugs which are in pipeline which can be used, which actually some of them are calorie restriction mimetics, mimic low calorie intake like fasting. I don't want to go into list of these drugs, but some of the things may be known to you, or maybe you may be familiar with them. Metformin is something which is widely used drug in people with diabetes, and it affects a certain component called AMPK and may increase lifespan. And so is some studies on cinnamon, some studies on curcumin, and phytochemicals in sweet potato, which many people in Okinawa eat. This is very interesting. This is a very scientific experiment, but I brought it to you because this was published just 2 days back in Nature, one of the top medical journals. This mouse had something deleted, one factor called interleukin 11 deleted, and this mouse is normal mouse. Both are of same age. But look at this mouse. It looks younger, has lower weight, blood sugar, and higher muscle mass. And even this mouse is getting balder, this mouse is not. That means age of this mouse is much less than what actual age is. And so, this is something which is a very path-breaking experiment just published 2 days back. If it applies to human beings or not, I don't know. But this is something which is very striking and very interesting. So just a couple of slides now. What are the parameters which ensure good metabolic health and longevity? So some of you sitting here will say, oh, what should be my parameters? When I go to doctor, what should I understand that this is good or this is bad? So there are a couple of parameters here for you to look at your own profile. Body mass index below 23. You can calculate your body mass index, weight, height, meter square. Body fat has to be low. So less than 25% in men and less than 35% in women. Waist circumference. So you can see your belt. What is the width of your waist? 80 centimeter in women and 90 centimeter in men. That means low abdominal fat, and if you can, somebody gets ultrasound done, low liver fat. This is good. Low abdominal fat and low liver fat is good. Normal grip strength. Now you'll say, what is normal grip strength? There is a simple device with which you can just grip that device and it will give you how much strength you have. And that is simple, in 2 seconds, one of the most important parameters to determine your overall strength, your muscle mass, and risk of diseases and death. This is what is called as grip strength. Blood pressure below 130/80, pulse rate in the normal range, fasting blood glucose below 100. This is good. Cholesterol below 200, and some people say for Indian population, below 150. Triglycerides, another form of cholesterol, below 150, and HDL, which is good. Normal oxygen saturation, and good overall fitness. Now, ideally, it is determined by a test called VO2 max. But forget about that test. If you are able to jog a little bit and maybe 2-3 kilometers without overtly, getting so much breathless that you have to stop, you have a good respiratory and overall fitness. So what can we do to avoid deterioration of our cells? Common sense approach. I've already told you much about it. If we cannot entirely avoid atmospheric pollution, we should at least quit smoking, including company of smokers. We should eat lesser calories by 10 to 20%. What you're eating, no need to go into fasting. If you decrease your calorie intake by 10 to 20%, this is what Okinawa people do. Their calorie intake is less than 20% as compared to the rest of the population in the world. Green vegetable and fruits intake should be 5 to 7 servings. 1 serving is 1 cup. Food should be rich in polyphenol. Berries are one of the best foods. Very good polyphenol. Nuts, handful of nuts every day. Flaxseed and carotenoid-rich avocado, spinach, yellow flesh, veggies, etc. Tree nuts, again I'm repeating, fish, omega-3, polyunsaturated fatty acid, ideally from the fish, but there are several other dietary items which may help. Weight must be maintained at low normal. Some people say, oh, you are looking weak because your weight is down. I say, no, this person's weight is normal. And in fact, he is fitter than any person who's commenting about it. So, lower side of normal means BMI of 21, not 23, 21 or 22 should be a good weight so as not to develop any of these diseases and your aging may be retarded. Muscles must be made strong. So not only you need aerobic exercise, you need weights, exercise with weights, resistance exercises, TheraBand. These are the exercises which will do you good. Please do not say that I do yoga and that's enough. That's not enough. Aerobic and resistance exercise should be first, and yoga only comes after that if you have enough time. Activity must be maintained throughout the day and not in short bursts, and close-knit social fabric and support. And there are a couple of medicines, vitamin D. We have accumulating some data from our lab on whether vitamin D can actually preserve telomere length, which I told you about, and metformin. So this is my last slide. These are the options at the moment. Exercise is what I have explained to you. Calorie restriction I have explained to you. Calorie mimetic, I don't know. They are in offering. Maybe in a couple of years we'll see that. Those drugs which I told you about, some protein restriction like methionine, maybe it will work. It is also in the offing. Metformin and inhibition of trophic signaling with certain molecules. So with that, I thank Times of India for giving me this opportunity to present some of the very new data regarding aging and how it is accelerated and how it can be retarded. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Mishra. You beautifully translated the latest scientific evidence, and I'm sure everyone who's been tuning in feels that this has been very, very meaningful, and especially the parameters and applied takeaways. So with that, we'll get started with the panel discussion. The first panel that we have today is thematically focused on how do we really transform senior care through accessibility, affordability, and trust. And we are thrilled to welcome an outstanding lineup of speakers who will discuss, debate, and deliberate on the key issues surrounding senior well-being in our country. So hopefully we will meaningfully pave a roadmap, a sustainable roadmap to build a brighter future for our senior citizens. For this panel, may I please introduce our amazing lineup of speakers. We first have Dr. Harsh Mahajan, who's the founder and chairman of Mahajan Imaging Labs, which has, of course, as you know, a wide network of integrated diagnostic centers. Dr. Mahajan is a recipient of Padma Shri. Dr. Mahajan also serves as the chair of the Health Services Committee of the FICCI. Joining him is Professor Niranjan Hiramat, a senior cardiovascular and aortic surgeon who's the surgical lead for the Apollo Aortic Program. Dr. Hiramat's expertise is in cardiovascular health, which is, of course, integral to understanding the intersection of heart health and overall wellness in seniors. Next, we have with us Navneet Bali, who's the CEO of ClearMedi Healthcare. With major investments from Morgan Stanley, ClearMedi is a rapidly expanding brand name for healthcare needs in the country. Previously, Mr. Bali has led positions like Senior VP and Group Head Strategy and Advocacy at Narayana Health. Completing our panel is Neha Sinha. She's the CEO and co-founder of Epoch Elder Care and a specialist in dementia care. Her dedication to personalized and compassionate care has made Epoch a leader in the field, providing innovative and effective solutions for seniors living with dementia. And then, last but not the least, let me introduce the moderator, Dr. Arjun Dang. He's the CEO and partner of Dr. Dang's lab in New Delhi. Dr. Dang is a stalwart in the field of laboratory diagnosis with a remarkable academic background. Dr. Dang specializes in GI disorders and allergy, for which he's led the development of specialized diagnostic panels. So please put your hands together to welcome our speakers for what promises to be a very, very enlightening session. Over to you, Dr. Dang.
Thank you, Dr. Avasthi, and thank you to the organizers for dedicating this day to such a crucial topic. And the one thing that I remembered when I heard of this conclave and Neeti was very kind to reach out was my own Dadu, my grandfather. We lost him when he was 97, and the reason that I exist today and I'm a doctor also is all because of him. And it just echoed with me that this is such an important topic because in his last few days, last few months, I was with him. And the glaring gap I saw was that even to get like a good nurse for home for him was a major challenge. And I also realized that there is so much more to taking care of the elderly compared to just taking care of patients. So I think a big round of applause for the organizers for such a mindful topic that they chose for today. And thank you, Times of India. And without much ado, I'll jump into this quote that I read this morning. It's by Tia Walker, and she says that to care for those who cared for us is one of the highest honors. And I think that is why we gather here today, to understand that what is the best way possible to transform senior care in India with increasing accessibility, affordability, and building trust. So Harsh sir, my first question is to you. Thank you for being here. And so we are going to delve upon a few points, out of which I'm going to address one to you. And Dr. Mahajan, as a leader in the medical imaging fraternity, how do you see advanced imaging technologies contributing to early detection and management of various memory disorders in seniors? Specifically, could you elaborate on the latest advances, maybe in MRI and PET scans and other radiology modalities that aid in the diagnosis of conditions like Alzheimer's and other dementias?
Thank you very much, Arjun. Going straight to the point, I think imaging today has reached a stage where many years before an event is to happen or someone is to get dementia or even mild cognitive impairment, using imaging, both MRI as well as a PET scan, we are able to actually tell whether this person is at a higher chance for getting dementia. At the same time, we also have genetic tests, genome sequencing, which can be used to bring out those amongst a population who are again at higher risk because there is a genetic basis. So if, suppose my father had dementia, it may be worth my getting a test done to see whether I have that gene which may be responsible for causing a dementia. Now, is there something that we can do to actually either delay the whole process or actually eliminate it completely? I think there are treatments today available, especially for Alzheimer's disease, as recently as a few months ago, which can delay the process. Now, what time that whole treatment should start is something which we still don't know, and there's research ongoing on this. But to answer your question, yes, both imaging as well as genome sequencing can pick out those at higher risk and also predict who are the ones who may actually be getting the disease.
Very interesting, sir. Recently I was reading up about this blood test also. It's called an ApoE4, again linked to Alzheimer's, and I think stitch in time saves 9. And very interesting point, sir. Thank you for that. So my next question is to Commodore Navneet Bali. Thank you for being here, sir. And what, according to you, are key challenges in making advanced memory disorder treatments accessible and affordable? And also, if you could share how essential is integrated health services to create comprehensive wellness plans for seniors. A little bit about this topic.
Thank you very much, and it's an honor to be here and pleasantly surprised that Times of India took up this topic. I think in last 5 years, many conclaves and many conferences I've attended. No one found that this topic was of any interest at all. And I'm sure you would had a lot of issues getting sponsors for this event because this is something that's a hidden secret or kept under the carpet. Coming straight away to the question, the second part of your question. let's go 30 years from now, 2050, and almost everyone sitting in this hall, because of the advances in healthcare, would be alive. Today, we have around 5 crore Indians above the age of 65, which is just about 6% or so of the population. In 2050, every one of us here will constitute that, and we'll be around 20% of our entire population. Our population will be around 160 crores, so we'll be around 50 crores of us above 65 years of age. Please remember, the best healthcare schemes for elderly in the world are by the Scandinavian countries. They are small countries with a very good tax to GDP ratio, where the money is abundant. We are never, ever, ever going to reach that point, even if we become a developed country, because we are just too many of us. So the formula that applies to them just does not apply to us. What does integrated healthcare mean? Let's talk practically. Most of the hospitals would not want us in their hospitals because we are not the revenue generators. Most of the people will be so occupied, the youngsters, as the society moves towards that direction, they would not want to take care of us. So what is the solution truly, absolutely, in practicality? How do we then ensure that all of us sitting in this room are taken care of? Let's think about it from not a point of view of a healthcare professional, for all of us who are very much interested. And then, this conference, we take home certain points and see what best we can do to do that. The best integrated healthcare would comprise of a group of people who are absolutely dedicated to that program, are trained to be the soul healers, compassionately looking after every part of your healthcare, which also includes spirituality, and more of spirituality and more of those topics which are not talked about so often, for example, loneliness. That is point number one. Second point, a society like ours would want most of us not to visit hospitals. That means most of the healthcare at that point of time has to happen at home and not at hospitals, and only few of us then visiting the hospitals, which are covered by some insurance or some government scheme or something like that. Government interventions are happening. You must have heard the Ayushman Bharat scheme being now taken to 70 years and above. That means, let us say, at 2050, the government policies, and we never ever should underestimate the power of policy, is that every elderly above 65 gets an Ayushman Bharat card. But are our hospitals going to be ready? Of course, the answer is no. So most of us will have to be cared in the hospital by integrated teams which take care of nutrition, health, exercise, spirituality, because most of the elderly would not want to spend their days in the hospital. So the program has to be totally different. It is not in the typical healthcare system that we go around. It will be around making those trained people today and thinking about it today. Sometimes in the future, India is going to flip over. Today we have the highest, youngest population in the world. In 2050, it's going to flip over. The younger generation would not want to have children, and so we'll have more and more elderly and lonely elderly sitting at homes. People from the villages would have migrated to the cities. You'll have those parts of where you'll have more and more elderly people sitting at homes. So we can imagine a situation developing, and every one of us sitting in the room, and through Times of India, through such conferences, and I wish there were more of them, we'll have to start to begin thinking about these trained people, along with the government, along with some institutions which are very rich and which sponsor these programs, to come into, so at 2050, when we hit this 20% benchmark, of 50 crore of us above 65 years of age, we are ready for this integrated program. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for those comments, sir. Actually, I was reading this morning that the UN has said that India will be a super aging country by 2050. So completely echo your words and agree with them. My next question is to Dr. Niranjan Hiramat. And firstly, thanks for being here, Dr. Niranjan. So as a stalwart in the field of cardiovascular surgery, I think there's a lot of talk behind latest therapeutic approaches and also wearables that help us monitor your cardiac health. And could you share some latest innovations or therapeutic approaches that can benefit seniors with both cardiovascular and perhaps weaving it into memory-related disorders, if any? And would love to hear your thoughts on this.
First of all, thank you for having me, and thanks for that excellent question. See, as a heart surgeon, I would like to point out, and I'm sure many of us are aware now, is heart disease is the #1 killer in the world right now, and that applies to even our country. With the risk of hypertension and diabetes being the most predominant disease that's prevalent in our population, especially the 40+ population, the risk of heart disease is exponentially growing. I'm seeing patients as early as 36, 40 coming with severe fat deposition or cholesterol plaques in the arteries, impending, heart attacks about to happen, people who don't take care. They have high blood pressure, uncontrolled diabetes at 36, 38. Earlier, heart disease used to be called a disease of the elderly. Not anymore, at least not in India. First and foremost, we are genetically predisposed to cardiac problems, right, like heart attacks. Second, add sedentary lifestyle, rise in stress levels, and I would say bad eating habits. They're all kind of adding up now. And as days and years progress, we are seeing more and more people coming. And the moment you have genetic predisposition, you have pre-existing diabetes, hypertension, you suddenly fall into a high-risk category of getting neurocognitive disorders, heart attacks, and kidney issues. And that's just on the rise. So, first and foremost, it's the awareness. We are actually quite blessed in India. We have some of the best medical care you can ever find in the entire world, and most accessible. The problem is the elderly population are not connected to that world-class care. So programs like these and initiatives are the ones who need to focus on how to make them accessible, be it affordability or be it access in healthcare. And I think that's where we have to look into and head towards.
Thank you. Thank you for that answer. My next question is to you, Neha, and thank you for being here. And since your expertise is in the field of dementia, I would like you to tell us a bit about the newer innovations, therapeutic approaches. How important is social engagement also while treating someone with dementia? And highlight a few recent research innovations or what has been particularly impactful in your practice at Epoch Elder Care.
Sure. Thanks, Arjun, and thanks TOI for having me here. And I second everyone on the panel that, kudos for arranging conversation on such an important topic. So, Arjun, I think cultural innovation and technology is something which I like to talk about with some cultural context. And why I say this is because countries like Japan or Sweden, from where we drive examples, have very different issues. So the innovation and technology changes over there are solving different problems. And today we are solving in India, we have different problems, we need to solve different problems. Like you said at the start, you were struggling to find a caregiver. So in India, the problem is we should not solve a problem that we don't have. So technology should not go around substituting human interface. I think that's something which I strongly feel about. There are so many other things that innovation and technology can solve. We have the people, but we don't have trained people. So skilling is one area where technology definitely needs to come in. And one of the things is, how quickly can you train people? It doesn't need a 2-year course to understand how to care for someone with dementia, but we use something like 5 golden rules, just like don't disagree with them, don't ask questions, enter their world, and so on. So just giving a small example. The other thing is that, the quality of life for someone with dementia gets affected largely because of isolation. Not because of, other factors. Of course, there's cognitive decline, their ability to live their lives, kind of independently really gets affected. But isolation is something which takes away their ability to live good quality of life. So how does innovation come in there? So, things like focusing on their long-term memory, for the uninitiated, dementia affects recent memory more, and for the longest time, their long-term memory remains intact. So how do we use that to, kind of creatively curate their life today, using their long-term memories to, create activities, to do conversations, to, help them live their lives independently and so on. So our focus has to be more practical and not fancy.
No, I completely agree, Neha, but it's just something that obviously I think about because I took care of my grandfather that time and he had a major fall because of which things deteriorated. So perhaps with technology, if there's something like a Fitbit or a little band on your arm that at least alerts us at night if they've had a fall or an impact, I mean, that is something that we can probably look at because to have someone sit with them at all time, even if we have the resources, they don't like it if there's someone around in their bedroom at all times. So
Yeah, so
maybe
security and safety would definitely be one of the things that technology can easily solve for GPS trackers and sensors, motion sensors and so on. Yeah.
great. Thank you. Thank you. So, Harsha, my next question is to you. And as we already know that people above the age of 60 in this elderly group, about 1/4 of them have some chronic illness or the other. How important do you think is an integrated diagnostic approach to create a personalized plan for the senior citizens? I mean, one size does not fit all, and especially in healthcare and especially in senior care. So please tell us a little more about this.
I think that's absolutely right. Uh, Today is the era of personalized medicine, of personalized diagnostics. Even this, the health checks, the way they are done, where you have a silver package and a gold or a platinum or diamond or whatever. In that, what happens, that specifically what an individual may require may get left out. So many times we hear that this person had a health check 5 days ago and today he's died because of a heart attack or whatever. So personalization of health checks based on one's past history, your present history and family history is very, very important, and that's where today we are attempting to be. Then second is that, every diagnostic modality is working in silos. The pathology lab does something, then you go to a genome sequencing lab, it'll do something else. Radiologists will do something, biochemists will do something, and it's left to the poor physician sitting in his OPD with patients waiting outside, having to make sense of all of this. So, since about 5 years, if you see integrated diagnostics, if you were to Google, the number of hits are going on increasing. And there is no doubt that we need to break the silos because ultimately one has to make sense of all these different tests to reach one specific diagnosis. And that's where integrated diagnostics is very, very important. And probably artificial intelligence and with the large language models that are coming in, with the generative AI, probably it may become technically possible to do this. Also at the same time, you alluded to this, wearable devices will also, the data coming from them, it's not humanly possible to assimilate all of that. With AI, we will be able to assimilate all of that to see what is the present problem and how to tackle it. There's a recent paper, came only a few days ago, which says that there is overall aging of the body, but different organs in the body, now it's possible to see how they are aging. And it is seen that different organs age differently, again based on your genetics, based on the environment, based on what you eat, the exercise that you do. And as I think knowledge unfolds in the coming times, even this will become very, very important. But the initial thing is to be able to digest the information that we currently have available, put it into one complete diagnosis so that one may target going forward. And this applies not only to the elderly, but to all age groups that we have.
Very Very, very well said, sir, like always. And I think this bit about personalization is something that we managed to make come true. And by this platform called Discover that we have, that not only takes into account your medical and personal history, but also integrates your previous reports, throws up those abnormal results, and most importantly, picks a health goal also based on your preferences. I think diagnostic checkup packages, the gold, silver, platinum is something that we lost sleep over for a lot of years. But there's a free of cost website that we've launched. It's called Discover by Dr. Dangs, and it helps you personalize the tests that are required for you. Thank you, sir, for those comments. So my next question would be to Commodore Navneet Bali. Sir, so could you tell us a bit about how essential is like what Dr. Mahajan was also talking about, integrating various health services to create wellness for seniors, and also perhaps share some successful initiatives or programs that have significantly improved the social engagement and quality of life for seniors with whatever measurable impacts they've had?
Yeah, thank you for that question. And I'll go back to what I said earlier, that the elders, the elderly, and again take the same example of all of us sitting here, don't want to go to hospitals. I think some of us, or many of us, always think about our passing away. And I think the best way to do would be amongst our near and dear ones, our friends and family, and die in sleep. And that is something that every one of us wishes for. And I think that again comes back to the same argument that I had, that such programs which keep elderly at their homes, guided by a group of trained people, and or in community centers. One example that I want to give to all of you, and I was in Narayana Health, and we have a hospital in Gurgaon. We had a hospital in Gurgaon. There was an institution called Second Innings in Gurgaon, and this was run by a foundation. And what they did was they had a house, and all the elderly at morning 9 o'clock of that community would come to that place, and they would spend the entire day at that place and go back in the evening. They would do activities, they would eat their food together, and things like that. And that I found, and there were tremendous amount of success stories which came out of that. People who had dementia improved, people who had movement disorders started walking, they were more lively, and they were all amongst people of their own age. They also hired doctors to come into that place. They hired clinical psychologists to come wherever required. But it was this community living which I think gave a tremendous amount of boost to the quality of life. So exactly coming back to the point for something that can be thought of and taken home by all of us sitting in this room, I think we better start creating these small communities around us, these community centers around us, where a group of 10, 15 people, 20 people get together as we retire and move, who don't want to be in active life into doing some venture or whatever you want to do, and spend time together doing a lot of things. I think example of second livings can be protracted and move further into this system where elderly spend time together, cared by some people, and do not reach up hospitals except when it is acutely required. My company, ClearMedi Healthcare, we are basically into cancer care, and I would love if anybody here in this room would want us to do something for the elderly in the places that we are present. It will be done gratis, and we'll make out programs. We'll find sponsors to do it, and again, keeping them at home, not bringing them to hospitals, and doing whatever best we can do a little bit for them. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, please.
Our village Chopal used to do exactly what you're saying, where the elderly would meet, spend the day, and so our forefathers actually knew all this.
Thank you for that. So in the essence of time, any closing comments from your side, Dr. Niranjan, and then after that you, please.
Yeah, in fact, I want to touch upon what Dr. Mahajan was pointing out in terms of diagnostic tests. And he's absolutely right saying that different departments or specialties are doing different things, but they're not integrated. So I think I'll take this opportunity to point out that we have, at Apollo Hospitals, we have come up with the Apollo Pro Health package, which is AI-driven. So you wanted to know about technology. So AI is the in thing right now. So what we've done, this Pro Health package stratifies your risk score. You enter, say, for example, your family history, whether you're diabetic or not, whether you are prone to, family history of heart diseases, and so on and so forth. So it categorizes you into low risk, medium risk, high risk, and very high risk of developing a certain cardiac issue or a cerebral issue. So we do have excellent technology now, which is integrated, and I think it is coming along quite well. It's just the awareness that we need to spread amongst each other, especially the elderly population need to know about it, and go to the right people at the right time. And as I said, it's all about being available and reachable to the common people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Neha, over to you.
Yeah, I think experts, all the experts over here have, kind of given the focus on the need for clinical care. But my perspective comes from being a caregiver and operator. So the only thing that I want to summarize this session with is that elder care, yes, while healthcare and focusing on physical health is very important, and without the base, you can't really focus on quality of life. But quality of life is also driven by many other aspects. And when we look at, improving the lives of seniors, we should also look at it from a more holistic lens. So it also means, we have spoken about social engagement, we have spoken about activities, we have spoken about, spiritual health, we have spoken about, things like physical, occupational health, and all these things. So we can't just look at senior care from one lens. It's important that we look at all aspects of life in order to, truly give a 95-year-old the life that they really want. Thanks.
That makes a lot of sense, and thank you for those very insightful comments. I think with the 100 million senior citizens that we have in our country right now, a number that's more than, if you combine the senior citizens of even big countries like the USA and Japan, I think this is a critical topic, but I think we are barely scratching the surface. There is a lot more to be discussed, a lot more to be learned, and more importantly, a lot more to be implemented. Thank you for your time and attention. It was a pleasure and a privilege. A big round of applause for our esteemed panelists. And thank you, TOI, for arranging this for us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. As Dr. Dang said, such an insightful discussion from AI to personalized health to spiritual well-being, holistic health. I think we covered a lot. So with that, let's get ready for a fireside chat where I am pleased to introduce Mr. Ashish Gupta, who is the founder of Samarth Elder Care, which is country's leading elderly care organization providing care and community engagement for senior citizens across more than 300 cities. With a BTech from IIT Kanpur and MBA from IIM Calcutta, he has worked with leading firms like the McKinsey and Citicorp. He is also the Pro Vice Chancellor of JKLU and an industry scholar with the Cornell University. With such a lovely introduction and bio, over to you, Dr. Dang, and I think we'll have a short presentation about the Samarth Elder Care before we get started. So here, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. And once again, thanks to our organizers. And we were chatting before the panel discussion. And I think I did jot down a few questions that I wanted to ask you. But I think in the essence of time, I'm sure your presentation is going to cover all of these. And broadly, all of us are very curious to understand the great work being done by you and your team. and also to learn a little bit more about the most common challenges that families face when selecting elder care services for their loved ones. Like, I personally feel that obviously aptitude and skill is very important, but attitude from a perspective of empathy, care, trust, patience, I think all of that is extremely critical when taking care of our elderly. Also, what advice would you give to organizations and CHROs considering elder care benefits for their employees? Because again, that's very important. And lastly, how could policymakers, from a larger perspective, view and address the elder care challenge in the country? And over to you, and looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you very much. Namaskar. I'll just echo what people before me said, that this initiative from TOI is really something which was, I think, waiting to happen. And it brings together ideas and thoughts from different perspectives. It's a very hard act to follow when you've had, some of the top doctors up on the stage. I'm a learner. I still consider myself a student, so I'm going to use some cheat sheets to talk about the points which were raised. I don't think I need to underscore the importance of seniors as a segment. I think between growing population of older adults above 60, changing family structures, migration, etc., there are enough reasons for us to appreciate why it's becoming very important. There are advances in healthcare, and if we were to listen to Dr. Mishra, this is only going to go up. Economic and technological developments, enhanced longevity, all of these, make this what I feel is the challenge of the century. As we talk about global warming, I think in the same vein, we should think about what aging is doing to the world and more closer home to our country. In our country, offering a safe, comfortable and dignified life and care to seniors becomes even more challenging because of three major constraints. There's a very high trust deficit, and this we see and live every day of our lives. There is poor care talent, which was already talked about. With no, in our country, we don't have, providing care as a formal profession. So nobody wants to get into care, and it's left to oftentimes family and, more importantly, women to take care of it. And very limited resources. I think it was talked about, what's happening in Scandinavia and some of the developed countries. We don't have that ability, we don't have those resources. And if you couple that with the need to get more women into the workforce, a changing dependency ratio, which will start declining from 2040, and we have the perfect storm. So in this context, we can ill afford to sit and wait for this time bomb to explode, or even to waste what are already scarce resources on things and initiatives which are not optimal. When you have less, you have to make it work harder, you have to make it go further. And in a situation like this, for all of us stakeholders, we need to be extremely deliberate and razor sharp on how we tackle this challenge, as well as actively address the opportunities that arise from this dramatic change, and that's where I'm going to address some of the things. For the last 8 years, we at Samarth have focused on this mission. We say we are going to work towards changing the way people age in India, and we are trying to do this with a lot of research and consumer-backed insights. One of our biggest research shows, surprise, surprise, that there's a big difference between the needs and desires of seniors and what other things they are. And a lot of effort, therefore, goes towards addressing what organizations, policymakers, governments feel are the problems, and not necessarily what are the real problems. Therefore, our core thesis in this 123 manifesto is that designing services, products around the needs and desires of seniors will ensure the desired outcomes in terms of improving quality of life for all segments and use cases. So really, it's very simple. It's saying, look, understand what the real needs and desires are, and let's make sure that we work towards that. And I'm going to, take some time to present some research and some data around that with you. And the 123 manifesto is really a simplified articulation of our thesis, which has informed our approach at Samarth and has validity for all stakeholders in this ecosystem, whether it is children who want to, extend care to their elders, whether it's companies who want to take advantage of the opportunities that this segment presents, whether it is employers who want their employees to be, caregivers as well as productive employees at the same time, and the government, think tanks, institutions who aim to shape policy for this sector. So it is really about the needs and desires that affect seniors, their behavior, choices, and sense of well-being. And this is what we call their 1 wish, 2 concerns, and 3 joys. So that's the 123 manifesto. And ladies and gentlemen, when we provision care, when we build products and services for seniors, when we create policies and invest sometimes national resources, or even when we support our own parents and elderly, keeping these at the center of our actions can ensure that our initiatives are well directed and impactful. When we started Samarth, we conducted a major research with elderly in India, children in India and overseas who had parents here, to more sharply understand the problem we were trying to solve. And so we asked a simple question. We said, look, what is the big worry? What is the big challenge with elder care? So children, people like us who had elderly parents or who were working in this area, talked about a bunch of things. They said, look, they should be secure. If somebody can handle emergencies, if somebody can take care of health problems or take them to the hospital when it is needed, keep them safe, keep them secure, everything focused around their physical needs. When we asked elderly the same question, the answers were very different. Their big desires and needs were around social and emotional needs. They, and as we researched and learned more, these boiled down to really 3 themes. People to talk to, right? And this is intuitive, we all know. We all know that there's a need to talk to people, there's a sense of isolation sometimes. Places to go to. We hadn't realized how important that was for elderly. The need to continue to have mobility, go to places. And third, and perhaps the most important one, was the desire to continue to be needed, right? You can elevate it to say to have a purpose, whatever. And we talk about these as the 3 joys now. People to talk to, places to go to, and to be needed or to have a purpose. Intrinsic joy, we found, is crucial for seniors' emotional well-being. And this, therefore, formed the first leg of our framework, which is what we call the 3 joys. The second leg is about 2 worries. These come up in research after research, poll after polls, which we do in our community of elderly on a monthly basis. The first is something we all get, we all understand. It's about health. Yeah? Please note that increased longevity does not translate into healthy aging. Yeah? But there's another very interesting counterintuitive insight worth noting. Presence of a chronic condition does not necessarily lead to poor perception of health. Yeah? I may have a disease, I still don't feel that I'm in bad health. In a global survey, and this is not only India, in a global survey, more than 40% of all respondents who reported having a chronic disease still perceived their health as good or very good, which clearly shows us that there is something more than just health care. In India, interestingly, the perception of health profile over old age is in fact better than world average, which means that in India, even with disease, people feel that they are in a better state of well-being or health. And this underscores, I think it was mentioned in the last panel, it underscores the importance of context over the generally considered metrics of wellness, health being one of them. And by the way, this global survey, it's not a small survey. It had 19,000 respondents across the country, was done by McKinsey in 2022. And they worry with health, they worry whether they can take care of themselves, that they stay physically and mentally capable. They also worry about unexpected expenses that can arise from health events. Their second worry is financial, right? Majority of elderly they feel financially insecure. And it manifests in many ways. It manifests in the worry that the resources can take care of them for the rest of their lives. It manifests itself in the worry about unexpected expenses, the quite strong aversion to spend on themselves, which is even more pronounced in India. And sometimes if they have a lot, it is the worry of passing it on to their children. And we have found this to be quite universally applicable. It is not one region versus the other or one economic strata versus the other. It's very universal here. And another somewhat counterintuitive insight related to that, financial independence rates higher in the overall, driver of independence for elderly, even higher than decline in health or decline in mobility, right? Which means people are, somewhat okay with decline in health and decline in mobility, but the thing they worry most about is financial independence. So this makes up the second leg of the framework, which is what we call the two worries, right? So 3 joys, 2 worries. The third part of the senior psyche, which affects how we provision care and think about their well-being, is what we recognize now as their one wish or one hope. And that is to stay and be independent. And this so dominates their worldview that we have found that most seniors who have the means will prefer to deal with the challenges and inconveniences of staying alone rather than move in either with their children or institutional settings. And it is the sense of control they feel over their environment, their daily life. And once again, it's not difficult to imagine. Dignity and independence are 2 sides of the same coin. So when people feel independent, they feel that their dignity is protected. Right? The sense of agency is one of the highest priority for seniors, and data time and again shows this. There was a quote that Dr. Anup Mishra had put up in his presentation right at the beginning, where somebody was saying, look, the one thing that I want to do is to stay independent. Yeah. So this really completes our the 3 legs of our framework, which is the one wish, the 2 worries, and the 3 joys. There are 2 more aspects to this manifesto. The enablers, there's trust, which I think already has been spoken about. The importance of trust for this segment is disproportionate. The second is tech and touch. I think in the previous session, there was a little bit of a discussion about, where tech could come, where tech shouldn't come. I think it's very important to understand, and we've kind of probably learned it over the years, that to serve elderly in any form requires, it's a game of tech and touch. You can't do away with touch, but you can only scale with tech. And I think intelligently mixing and combining the 2 is what is required. Finally, we need to look at ecosystem solutions, integrating disparate point solutions, which means, one solution here, do this, do that. Dealing with uncertainties which arise at the intersections of these point solutions is not what we have seen seniors enjoy. You could even say that they don't want to play the role of integrator anymore. They've done a lot of that in their younger years. And this then, ecosystem solutions require collaboration. They require people to, work together, organizations to work together, leverage each other's strengths, create comprehensive propositions, and taking responsibility for trust end to end. In any solution, if there's trust in one part and not in the whole, then it takes away the whole thing. And this is something we've seen with elderly time and again, right? And I give this example. If you have to go, take a taxi somewhere, if you and I have to take a cab, we'll say, okay, which one is less likely to cancel, an Ola or an Uber? And we will call that. Many times the seniors will take the third call. They'll say, look, neither Ola nor Uber, they are not trustworthy, let me not go at all. Right? And time and again you see seniors taking the third choice. And what it means is that the quality of life reduces, their activities begin to constrict bit by bit. Right? And that's the big challenge to enhancing well-being and quality of life. So this manifesto is really at the heart of what we do, which we've taken to elderly across the country, Indian diaspora, corporations, etc. around the world. And I think it's equally applicable to stakeholders around. There are implications for the individuals as they provision care for their elderly, for their parents. There are implications for employers who need to think of and understand the value that provisioning care for their employees creates for their organizations. I think a lot of progressive organizations we work with have understood that, but there's a lot of scope here. In the industry, I think as we think about, and there is huge opportunity to serve this very, very underserved segment. As we think about creating products and services to build them around these desires and needs, right? We learned it the hard way. We went in trying to do what we thought was right, and very quickly we learned, no, this is not what the elderly need. And I think for the policy makers, there is a, since you asked that, there's an important implication. It's a, this is a very different, in one sense, this is a segment different from a lot of others, where we need both. There are some needs which are going to be based on, where you need welfare-based mechanisms, and for some things you need market-based mechanisms. I think policymakers, particularly the government, needs to think about that and delineate those areas. Wherever there's a need for welfare-based solutions, I think the government will need to step in. We will need public-private partnerships. We will need CSR. Equally, there are opportunities for market-based interventions and market-based propositions, where I think policymakers and government need to just enable for that to happen. I think that's been a little bit our thesis. It has, touch wood, worked for us a little bit, and I think it simplifies as we think about serving this market and serving the elderly in many different ways. So I'll stop here. Thanks for the time, and I'm happy to sort of answer any of the questions.
Thank you. A big round of applause. Extremely holistic, and I think this 1, 2, 3 concept is just brilliant. Helps us even take home something, and this is very interesting. Thank you. So I think we have a minute more. Any quick questions from the audience that we can answer? Great. Thank you again for the lovely presentation, and thank you everyone for this. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So I think we are going fast forward with all the sessions, but I think we forgot a crucial aspect, and that is to introduce our fantastic moderator for the day. So here goes. Dr. Awasthi is the founder and director of Anuvad, a research organization supported by the Gates Foundation that works on informing India's nutrition agenda. She is trained in global health from Harvard University, and in the past she has led the India Research Center for the Harvard School of Public Health, and currently also serves as an advisor to the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights at the Ministry of Women and Child Development. A big round of applause for Dr. Awasthi, and thank you for moderating this crucial day for us. Thank you.
All right, so we've had a lot of health talk. Let's have some pep talk. So moving on from technical details of healthcare, since we are talking about holistic well-being of senior citizens, let's get on to our next panel, which is themed after Golden Years, Golden Gains, Inspiring Elder Lives. So it talks about and talks to leading social influencers on how the golden years after 50 or 60 are not lost years. So let's hear it from them on their inspiring journeys, how they've broken age stereotypes, and how they continue to pursue their passion. For this wonderful and an interesting panel, may I please invite on the stage the first speaker, Mr. Dinesh Mohan, who's a model, a 63-year-old actor and supermodel from Delhi. Yes, please, a huge round of applause for him. He began his modeling and acting career at the age of 57, known for his numerous TV commercials, serials, films, and high fashion shoots, including for the Vogue and GQ. He's appeared in major films like Bharat and Darbar and has been a motivational speaker at TEDx and Josh Talks. Thank you so much, Mr. Mohan, for joining us. Please have a seat. Next up, we have with us the YouTube influencer, Mr. Harish Pali, also known as Visa to Explore. He has been working for the past 8 years as a YouTube travel influencer and has gained a subscriber base of over 1.7 million. He has more than 450 videos live on his channels and runs 2 channels on YouTube called Visa to Explore and Harish Pali Travels. Thank you so much for joining us. Now meet Miss Ravi Bala Sharma. Also, as you know, if all of you who follow her on Instagram, the Dancing Dadi or the Grandfluencer, affectionately known as the Dancing Dadi. She's a 66-year-old retired music teacher who's taken Instagram by a storm. As a grand influencer, she promotes the powerful message that age is really just a number. Through her vibrant dance videos, Ravi Balaji has been inspiring people of all ages to embrace their passion and live life to the fullest, proving that it's never too late to follow your dreams and spread joy. Let's give a warm round of applause to our esteemed panelists and get started. All right. So my first question is to you, Mr. Mohan. I mean, your bio, of course, it's very obvious to ask you, how did this happen in 2016 that at the age of 57, you decided and actually achieved a dream of becoming a model and an influencer the way you did?
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a mystery even to me. I have not been able to break down my story, till now.
We'll help with that today.
Right, maybe yes, it happens today. I was suffering from depression prior to becoming a model and an actor. And everybody has been talking about, being socially active or doing something purposeful in life. I had lost my purpose in life. I had given up on my dreams. And this period went on, it happened due to some personal tragedies, which I don't want to get into here. And I was homebound, was a prisoner of my own thoughts. And due to depression, a lot of ailments, started happening. I became obese. We just talked about obesity. And I had diabetes, and I had heart ailment and loss of motor function. So out of those 14 years, I was almost for 2 years, I was bedridden and could not walk, could not move around or, be of any use to even myself, what to talk about others. But then this very strong desire of getting up and doing something useful in life, reclaiming my life. I don't know how it kicked in me. Maybe I used to watch a lot of, stories, inspirational stories or things. I don't know. I've not been able to break that down. So I decided that I have to do something to get out of this, prison that I had formed around myself. Gave up on all the negative thinking. I thought, what bad, worse can happen to me? I was already like a dead body. And if I get up and do something for myself, the most will be that I'll actually die. So at that point of time, I didn't care about anything. It was very tough to get up and, take a few steps because of my ailments, and my weight was 140 kgs at that time. But then, I started making that effort. It happened here first, and then it started, showing in my physical. I lost the weight. In 8 months, I lost around 50 kgs. I became mobile. I started walking with a lot of difficulty. Like a baby, I had to relearn how to walk. There was physiotherapy and all kind of counseling and things like that. And this went on for, I guess, around 2 years. After that, it was like a rebirth, I became the moment I learned how to walk again, I was filled with this, so much of joy that I became like a kid. I would refuse to sit down. I'd refuse to be in my home. I'd just go out and become an avaragard, full total avaragard. So while these things were happening, somebody noticed me. You might have, read these stories in fiction or things like that, but it actually happened in my case. Somebody saw me and said, why don't you try modeling? Okay, you look like this and things like that. And I just could not, believe that person, because at the age of 56, 57, who would think of modeling and entering the glamour industry, which is, supposed to be, youth-oriented and people with this chiseled six-pack abs and tall and all that. I didn't take that person seriously, but then everybody, maybe nature and God wanted me to enter this field. And everybody whom I used to meet during those days would tell me, why don't you try acting? Why don't you try modeling? So I ended up going for an audition where I was selected. And from the very first shoot, everyone thought, who is this strange creature who's walked out of some dark hole? And, who is he? And this curiosity was generated. And then slowly my story became viral on internet that I'm this. And here I am. I've done movies. I just came back from London Fashion Week.
Wow. Wonderful.
It goes on and on.
A huge round of applause.
Thank
What
God.
an inspiring story.
Thank God.
No, I think it's very evident that you did not kill the hope, and age did not prevent you from pursuing your own dreams. Thank you. On the same note, I have sort of a similar question to you, ma'am. You also, how did this idea of, you've been a music teacher in the past, and then I was just looking at your Instagram and the wonderful dance videos. How did you overcome that hitch? Did you face any societal perceptions before you wanted to put yourself out there on social media? What did it take to really, break that barrier for you?
पहले तो मैं टाइम्स ऑफ इंडिया और जो ये कार्यक्रम जिन लोगों ने ऑर्गेनाइज़ किया है, मैं उनको तहे दिल से धन्यवाद देती हूँ कि उन्होंने मेरे विचारों को आपके सामने रखने का मौका दिया। तो मैं दिल्ली गवर्नमेंट स्कूल में म्यूज़िक टीचर थी। आफ्टर रिटायर मैं मुंबई शिफ्ट हो गई। मेरा वहाँ बेटा रहता था। तो वहाँ मेरे जाने के 6 महीने बाद लॉकडाउन हो गया। अब जो महिला सुबह 4 बजे उठ के रात को 10 बजे सो रही है, 11 बजे सो रही है, क्योंकि स्कूल में पढ़ाना भी, अपना परिवार भी देखना, तो उसका जो पैशन है वो कहीं छूट जाता है। मैं बहुत चाहती थी कि मैं सिंगर बनूं और मैं इस रेडियो पर गाऊं, दूरदर्शन में जाऊं, टीवी पे प्रोग्राम दूं, कोई एक्ट्रेस बनना, जो मेरा ख्वाब रहा पूरे टाइम, लेकिन वो मैं नहीं कर पाई। मेरा पैशन छूट गया था। मुझे डांस में बहुत शौक़ था। वैसे मैं संगीत म्यूज़िक फैमिली से बिलोंग करती हूँ। मेरे फादर ने मुझे संगीत सिखाया, तो वो क्लासिकल ही सीखा। क्लासिकल के मैंने बहुत प्रोग्राम दिए, स्टेज पर देती थी, लेकिन फादर मेरे कहते थे नहीं, आप क्लासिकल स्टेज पर परफॉर्म करो, बॉलीवुड डांस जो है वो आप बात को देखना। तो शायद से उनका एक पहचान थी कि वो एक संगीतज्ञ की बेटी है, तो वो क्लासिकली परफॉर्म करें। तो वे मेरा पैशन छूटा हुआ था डांस करने का बॉलीवुड सॉन्ग पर। तो मैं जब वहाँ गई तो मुंबई पहुँची तो मेरा बेटा कहने लगा, मम्मी आपका जो पैशन छूटा हुआ था वो आप शुरू करो। तो बस वही है, एक ऐसा था कि मैंने वहाँ से डांस शुरू करा आफ्टर 62 ईयर। मैंने एक रील डाली जो दिलजीत दोसांझ ने मेरा अपने पोस्ट पर वो डाला, और वहाँ से मेरी जर्नी शुरू हुई। फिर सभी जितने भी सिंगर्स हैं, कोरियोग्राफर्स हैं मुंबई में, उन लोगों ने मेरा डांस बहुत पसंद किया और मुझे चाहते हैं, मुझे बहुत प्यार देते हैं, और यहीं से मेरा सिलसिला शुरू हुआ। और जो सोशल मीडिया पे मेरे चाहने वाले बच्चे हैं, उन्होंने मुझे डांसिंग दादी का टैग दे दिया।
Wow, wow. Such an inspiring story. A huge round of applause. Wonderful. But आप दोनों की stories में the common aspect is that you did not give up on yourself and age was never a barrier. Do you want to add something? Were you picking up the mic?
Yeah, I actually appreciate her a lot. I have seen her dance videos and they are crazy, and I guess even Sanjay Leela Bansali also,
हाँ
you
जी,
know,
जी, जी।
shared one of your reels and
जी,
praised
जी,
you.
जी।
That is awesome, you know. मेरा अपना ये बहुत बड़ा विचार है एक, कि ये जो हम क्लासिफिकेशन कर देते हैं ओल्ड, you know, बचपन जो है एक नॉर्मल पार्ट है लाइफ का, जवानी, टीनेज, एवरीथिंग इज जस्टिफाइड, दैट्स अ पार्ट ऑफ ग्रोइंग अप. बट एक ओल्ड जो सेगमेंट है, I hate this word old, इसको we take it as, you know, some kind of illness या कोई pandemic sort of thing, कि हमारी संख्या बढ़ती जा रही है. Look at us, look at me. I tell you, this is just the beginning. The Greys are going to rule this world, and everybody better fall in line.
Wow.
Absolutely. I mean, why do people treat us? I am very against age shaming. People will walk up to me and they'll tell me, you don't look 65. I said, why? I love to look 65. I love to prove that 65-year-old can look like this and do this. So I don't like these age-related compliments. So what she is doing is awesome and brilliant.
Thank you.
And breaking those stereotypes. Wonderful.
एक मैं और कहना चाहूँगी कि जो हम लोगों के लिए एज डिफाइन कर दी गई कि इस एज के बाद आप ये नहीं करोगे, क्यों? हमारा जो अंदर मन करता है कि हम डांस करें, पेंटिंग करें, मॉडलिंग करें, कुछ भी करें, तो उसको क्यों रोका जाता है? तो मुझे लगता है कि एक एज जो है कोई परिभाषित नहीं कर सकता.
Because the youngsters are insecure about us. Simple.
No, absolutely. I think this is a great message to see that, you know, this is quite a perception that after an age there is a barrier.
वो समाज ने एक सीमा रेखा निर्धारित कर दी है कि आपकी इतनी एज हो गई तो शायद आप नहीं करो, लेकिन मैं कहती हूँ कि एज सिर्फ एक नंबर है, हम बहुत कुछ कर सकते हैं.
Absolutely. And people like you, influencers like you, ultimately society लोगों से ही बनती है. So I'm sure that you guys are going to be the torch bearers for leading this change in perception. Moving on to a different segment and topic. Mr. Bali, you're a travel influencer. Traveling often brings people together, builds social capital, builds communities, and of course you've traveled a lot. How have your experience been in terms of travel? Have you seen a sense of community being built through the travels that you were doing? What about people who were in their 50s and 60s? What effect did that have on their own well-being and their own passion and for life? Yeah.
I would like to address this particular. First of all, a brief introduction of what I do. My name is Harish Bali. I travel to different states. This is what I've been doing since last 8 years. And as part of my travel, I do a lot of sightseeing, explore a lot of local food, culture, and all that. And I put that on our YouTube channel, Visa to Explore. Now, just to answer what you're asking is, over last 4 years, I've noticed a significant change. Earlier, senior citizens were not traveling so much. Just to mention that earlier, go back 10 years and on the mall road, you will not see many people in their 70s or 80s traveling. But you go today, you will find a significant number. That's one. Second thing which is happening is there are companies which are coming up, the ones who are specializing in taking senior citizens along, because what happens is when a group of 30 people traveling in the same age bracket, traveling together, so they have a lot of common topics, common discussion points to share. तो ये चीज़ मैंने नोटिस करी है, स्पेशली इनफैक्ट फॉरगेट द मेन प्लेसेस. इनफैक्ट आई एम इवन टॉकिंग अबाउट प्लेसेस लाइक लेह लद्दाख, स्पीति. वहाँ मैंने बड़े बड़े ग्रुप्स देखे हैं जहाँ पर सीनियर सिटीजन का ग्रुप था, उनसे मैंने इंटरेक्शन करी एंड दे वर ऑल वेरी जॉयफुल, हैविंग अ ग्रेट टाइम. सिर्फ ये है कि उनकी रिक्वायरमेंट साइट सीइंग लेड नहीं थी. दे वांटेड मोर ऑफ कमर्शियल ओरिएंटेड, नॉट कमर्शियल, कल्चरली ओरिएंटेड ट्रिप. They wanted to other different experiences. So that's one. Second, मैंने एक चीज़ और notice करी है. This is maybe happening more with our channel and less with maybe other channels. Normally what happens is, since our channel is published on YouTube, what we realize is 90% of people watch YouTube on mobile. That's what the global thing is. And few people, they will watch it on tablet, and some will watch it on laptop, and some will watch YouTube on TV also. But in our case, 75% of our viewership is coming on television. So what is happening is, this is quite strange. In fact, few days back only, YouTube India CEO mentioned about our channel that 75% viewership of Visa to Explore is coming on TV. There was a note on this. Now what's happening is, when a program is being telecasted on a TV through whatever means, YouTube on a smart TV. So what's happening is, people of all the age groups are watching, whether directly or indirectly. Even if you are not actually watching it fully, but just passing by, you are indirectly watching and seeing. And travel is one forte domain which everybody enjoys. So I have also noticed that this is helping family reunion in an indirect way. Because what's happening is, I get so many emails from children, not children, but basically from people who say that normally earlier I was not getting enough time to spend with my grandfather because of my job, but because of your channel, every Sunday we have breakfast together and watch your 30-minute video. Somebody will write that now we have a 30 to 45-minute get together every alternate day because now we are also seeing your old videos. So in a way, this is also helping build, कुछ देर पहले बात हो रहा था ना, social and emotional. So this is building on emotional thing.
It's giving them a reason to sit together and discuss and explore.
That's what I can figure out.
Wonderful. And you have the data to back it up. Absolutely. Another question to you, Mr. Mohan. You told us about how did this story start. जब एक बार ये कहानी शुरू हो गई and you entered the modeling career, did you continue to face age-based stereotypes and barriers in the modeling industry? And if so, what would be your message to, say, other people tuning in the audience who might be in their 50s and 60s but are looking to, enter the showbiz and enter the industry?
Yes, I had to face this thing about stereotypes, not in modeling as much, because modeling is a very open, thing. People had not explored that who were in my age category. But acting mein, yes, I felt that, pressure of, har jagah, wherever I went, shuru mein audition ke liye, it was for a Dadaji role, or a Chacha, or Taya, and, people would ask me, aapke paas kurta pajama hai, which I don't own. Sorry to the kurta pajama. Yeah, so from the very beginning, I very consciously decided कि भाई मुझे ये नहीं करना. ठीक है, age group है, but मुझे दादा का profile नहीं चाहिए. So I was looking for something different, and very soon that opportunity came. There was a shirt brand from Australia who approached me for their ad, and wherein I was portrayed like this Mr. James Bond kind of role with young beautiful women around me and things like that. So that helped me break the stereotype, and till date, people who want a normal old man character, they don't approach me. Kuch different ho, kuch glamorous ho, and I've never learned acting. Kabhi sikha nahi hai, but I've been very lucky to have some good roles in a movie like Sand Ki Aankh, which was a very, inspirational movie. I had a role in that, and I won the Best Actor award for my short film, which is called The Bench. Of course, it's on old people. I have tried very consciously. I've been successful, in breaking that stereotype. सोसाइटी हम लोगों के ऊपर एक ऐसा मोल्ड जो है वो डाल देती है आफ्टर अ सर्टेन एज। हम लोग करना कुछ और चाहते हैं मगर लोग हमसे कुछ और एक्सपेक्ट करते हैं। मेरे इंस्टाग्राम पे जितने कमेंट्स आते हैं वो 80% यही होते हैं कि राम का नाम लो, कब्र में पैर लटके हुए हैं, मरने वाले हो, भगवान को याद करो।
ये मेरे पास भी
एंड मैं और ज़्यादा फटे हुए कपड़े डाल के अगली पोस्ट डालता हूँ कि लो ये मेरा रिप्लाई है।
Oh God. All right. So हम उसी point पर
You have to take everything with a, you know, with a sense of humor. Sense of humor is what is going to make you sail through any difficult situation.
Right.
So this is what I learned in life.
नहीं, हम उसी let's take that point. उसी पर आपसे एक क्वेश्चन पूछती हूँ। जैसे आपने बोला कि बहुत सारे लोग अपने अंदर की हॉबीज़ या पैशन या स्किल्स को एक्सप्लोर करें ना करें, एज लगता है बैरियर है, फिर सोसाइटी से भी ताने बाने हैं, राइट? आजकल सोसाइटल ताने तो इंस्टाग्राम पर भी आ जाते हैं। यू डोंट नीड आंटी एंड चाची फ्रॉम द
They're all सब सासू माँ हैं।
एवरीथिंग इज देयर अवेलेबल ऑन सोशल मीडिया। सो ऐसे कॉन्टेक्स्ट में, ऐसे इन्वायरमेंट में अगर जो लोग ये बात सुन रहे हैं, जो लाइव सुन रहे हैं, यहाँ पे भी बैठे हैं, और भी सारी दादी नानियाँ होंगी, दादा नाना होंगे कि आपको डांस का शौक था, किसी को म्यूज़िक का है, किसी को पेंटिंग का है, अलग अलग हॉबीज़ एंड स्किल्स हैं, और अब से दे आर 60 और करियर कुछ और ही था, हम ONGC में काम करते थे, कोई इंजीनियर था, कोई कुछ और कर रहा था, एंड अब वो अगर इस एज में आकर के अपना एक पैशन परस्यू करना चाहते हैं, सो व्हाट वुड बी योर से मैसेज टू देम दैट दे कैन लर्न फ्रॉम?
मैं उन लोगों के लिए बोलूँगी कि अभी समय नहीं निकला है, समय आपका इंतज़ार कर रहा है, आप आगे बढ़िए और फिट रहेंगे। मेरा तो डांस ऐसे, डांस की कोई भी कला है अगर आपके अंदर जिसको आप कभी नहीं कर पाए हो, परिवार के चलते, रिश्तेदार के चलते, जॉब के चलते नहीं कर पाए हो, तो 60 के बाद जब हमारी जिम्मेदारियाँ ख़त्म हो जाती हैं, बच्चे बड़े हो जाते हैं, जॉब में जाना शुरू करते हैं, तो हम अकेले रह जाते हैं, तो आपका जो भी पैशन रह गया है, आप नहीं पूरा कर पाए, आप उसको करो। आप देखिए अपने आप अंदर मन से इतने खुश हो गए कि अरे मेरी ये चीज़ छूट गई थी और आज मैं ये कर रही हूँ या कर रहा हूँ, तो मैं खुश हूँ। क्योंकि हमें पूरी लाइफ यही रहता है कि मेरा जो शौक़ था वो नहीं कर पाए। क्योंकि मैं अपने ऊपर की एक बात बताती हूँ कि मैं जब छोटी थी तो मेरे फादर ने बोला कि आप क्लासिकल का वो दोगे, कंपटीशन में मैं गई थी, वहाँ क्लासिकल का देना था, मैंने फर्स्ट डे दे दिया। उसके बाद वहाँ बॉलीवुड सॉन्ग पे डांस करना था, मैं अपना ग्रुप तैयार करके बॉलीवुड का डांस देने वहाँ पे कंपटीशन में चली गई। वहाँ जब मैं स्टेज पे खड़ी हो गई तो वहाँ मेरे फादर एज ए जज बैठे हुए थे। बस मेरे को ये लगा ये क्या, तो वो वाला जो डर एकदम मेरे अंदर था कि अरे मेरे फादर ने देख लिया, अब घर जाकर डांट पड़ेगी। लेकिन मेरे फादर और मदर की सोच जो थी वो मेरी एजुकेशन के लिए और फ्रीडम के लिए बहुत ऊंची थी। बस वो ये चाहते थे कि मैं क्लासिकल का टीचर हूँ मैं, तो मेरी बेटी भी क्लासिकल को परफॉर्म करे। तो मैं उन सभी सीनियर्स को बोलूँगी कि आपका जो पैशन कभी रह गया था आप उसको पूरा करो, फिट रहोगे, क्योंकि मन में वो कसक नहीं रहेगी कि हम ये नहीं कर पाए।
राइट, आपने फिजिकल फिटनेस की बात करी। माय लास्ट क्वेश्चन टू यू मिस्टर हरीश, ट्रैवल इज ऑल्सो रिलेटेड टू मेंटल वेलबींग, ऐसा आपने अपने एक्सपीरियंस में देखा, एंड स्पेशली फॉर पीपल इन देयर लेट 40s 50s 60s, डिड यू फील कि ट्रैवल इज पॉसिबली, या उन्होंने ऐसा आपसे एक्सपीरियंस शेयर किया हो दैट ट्रैवल इज पॉसिबली हैविंग अ पॉजिटिव इम्पैक्ट ऑन देयर मेंटल हेल्थ?
मैं काफ़ी सारे सीनियर सिटीजन्स को मिलता हूँ, नॉट ओनली सीनियर सिटीजन्स, काफ़ी सारे सब्सक्राइबर्स को मिलता हूँ जगह जगह। तो ये तो बात सही है, और सिर्फ उन्होंने नहीं बोला, उनके फैमिली मेम्बर्स ने भी बोला। तो मतलब मैं आपको वाउच करके इसलिए बता रहा हूँ क्योंकि मेरे प्रैक्टिकल एक्सपीरियंसेस हैं। अब जैसे किसी सिटी में जाकर मैंने एक मीटअप प्लान करी, तो वहाँ पर लेट से 150 और 100 पीपल केम अप, तो आउट ऑफ देम 7 और 8 फैमिलीज़ हैं, 3-3 4-4 लोग आ रहे हैं। तो वहाँ पर मैंने देखा कि समवन इनटू 60s इज़ ऑल्सो पार्ट ऑफ द टीम। तो मैं उनसे बात करता हूँ तो वो बताते हैं कि उनके बेटा बताएगा, बहू बताएगी कि अब हम लोग आपस में ना बहुत अच्छा हम लोग का टीम अप हो गया, जो पहले नहीं हुआ करता था। तो ये मैंने पहले भी जिक्र किया कुछ देर पहले। और यस, इससे एक चीज़ और बड़ी हुई है, जो पोस्ट कोविड मैंने जिक्र किया कि लोग ट्रैवल कर रहे हैं, तो हेल्पिंग देम मोर मेंटली एंड लेस फिजिकली. फिजिकल के लिए तो क्या है कि आप अपने घर के पास भी वॉक करते हो, यू डू योगा एंड एवरीथिंग एल्स, लेकिन मोमेंट यू गेट आउट ऑफ योर रूटीन डे एंड ट्रैवल फॉर 5 to 8 days समवेयर विद पीपल ऑफ योर एज ग्रुप, मे बी योर फ्रेंड्स, तो वो एक्सपीरियंसेस तो डेफिनेटली हर किसी को हेल्प करते हैं.
Wonderful. I think this panel has been very, very engaging and with beautiful, different new insights. And I'm sure कि आपकी तालियों से पता चलेगा whether, you also found this interesting. One last request, जो कि Instagram वाली दादी के लिए आई है, which is if you can move a step for us, for all of us who are joining us, कोई भी धुन पे, कोई भी गाने पे, if you can give us a short sneak peek into dancing दादी क्या करती है. You'll play the music? Please. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Before we go on to our next session, I would again like to acknowledge the support from our wonderful partners, namely Antara by Max Group, Asli, Epoch, and Samarth Elder Care, and also a note that this program and this summit is being live streamed across Times of India website, TOI app, and social media handles. All right? So, for the next session, and I must admit that personally, I've been looking forward to this session the most because when I got to know that Mr. Adil Hussain will be there for a fireside chat, I could first not believe or connect that is it going to be the Adil Hussain who's going to be joining us for this fireside chat. So before I bring him to the stage, and if you do not already know, which is unlikely, Mr. Hussain is an acclaimed Indian actor recognized for his roles in both independent and mainstream Indian films as well as international cinema. His notable works include The Reluctant Fundamentalist, Life of Pi, English Winglish, Lutera, and so many others. He's received National Film Award at the 2017 National Film Awards function, and in addition to that for Hotel Salvation and Maj Rati Kateki for these performances. But not very many people know that he's also taught acting at the National School of Drama, Film and Television Institute, Pune, Royal Conservatory of Performing Arts at The Hague, and also Drama School, Amsterdam. With that, may I please welcome Mr. Hussain to discuss how do we really thrive in the golden years. Please. All right. As you've seen and you've heard through the entire summit, we've discussed technical healthcare, we've looked at public health, we've looked at longevity, aging, we've looked at influenzas, mental health, travel, and now we come to spirituality. My first question here, because what we came to understand is that spirituality has had a big role to play in the way you've expressed your own creativity. How would you qualify that statement? And I mean, make us understand how spirituality at a personal level really made you who you are today.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a tough one because I don't think I am qualified even to articulate spirituality. Experientially, what I could probably share is that I was very influenced by a Russian acting, the father of modern acting. His name is Konstantin Stanislavski. I was taught his system of acting at the National School of Drama, and also when I studied in England. Konstantin Stanislavski asked the actors to ask, while reading a script, which is also taught in journalism, I'm sure, that 5 W's: who, where, when, what, and why. And if we, the actors, could answer these questions adequately enough, then the actor would be able to act decently, credibly. So the thought occurred in me, if I could act better in a given circumstances created by director and actor, probably I will be acting as a human being in a better way, or more responsibly or more credibly, if I answer these questions, these 5 W's in life. So when I asked, who am I? Nobody could answer that question. Apart from, first I searched in Western philosophers, Sartre and the rest of the philosophers in the West. Very, very vague answers. Something very interesting, but not really, I couldn't buy the stories. Then I asked shamans in South America, in Mexican shamanism. They were very close to my ambiguous imagination that, oh, this could be a possibility. But then I came back to Indian masters, starting from Ramakrishna Paramahansadev, and then went on to Sri Aurobindo. And Sri Aurobindo, being an Oxford graduate, who articulated in English, and very, very tough English. I needed dictionaries to constantly, because his paragraph starts from here and it goes on till there. So it's like a long passage. And then he tries to clarify what he meant in the first sentence in his third sentence so that I don't misconstrue or misunderstand what he's saying. So when I started reading Sri Aurobindo, then slowly I got the hang of this word. Spirituality is to look after, or a study, a quest, a search. In Hindi would be shodh of who you are. Who you are, what you do not recognize. So I ask myself, I'm Adil, I'm his son, I'm her son, a citizen of, from that town, from that neighborhood, from that country, I'm an Assamese, I'm born in a Muslim family. Does it make me a Muslim if I don't practice? What is? And then I'm an act. I act. I love acting. I teach. So this is my hand, and this is my right hand. This is my left hand. This is my body. My body means the owner is somebody else. So then, who am I? And that question was answered probably most profoundly by Ramana Maharshi, who went into a cave in Nilachal hill in Tiruvannamalai at the age of 18 or something, I forgot exactly, and he stayed there, just asked that question, who am I? Because this is, my body is not me. If I die right now, I will cease to become Adil, I will be the body of Adil. Adil is like, where did he go? So that quest led me to go deeper into it. And then, fortunately, I found my mentor, or rather, as they say in spiritual journey, that the mentor finds you, and he found me. He's younger than me. I would not name him because he forbade me to name him. And he introduced me 23 years ago. First of all, he saved me from dying twice. Literally. One was that I lost senses of both my legs. He fixed me in like from 10 o'clock till 2:30, so around 4.5 hours. And then later again, that was a physical issue. The second time when it happened, again, it was my emotional problems. I decided to commit suicide, which I'm a Libran. I never thought ever in my life that I can even think like that I will commit suicide. So he saved me again then. So I'm alive and I'm doing well because of the practices that he introduced me to. So the practice, when I say practice, it means that there are certain things that you do. It's about doing in order to understand what being means. So my acting, now it's a long answer to a short question. My acting, I was also looking for it. I was looking for what is the relationship between me as a human being in everyday life and the so-called actor who acts in a given space. What is the relationship between these two? The line got blurred, it merged, and I find no difference now at all, except for the difference of intensity, that you are more aware. So I live a truer life, more credible life, more alive and more intense life when I act. Because in life, I can afford to, I have the luxury not to be attentive, not to mean what I say. I have the luxury not to be alert, be focused, be concentrated. But when I act, of course, the kind of acting which is demanded from me by directors, not all directors. When I work with international directors, they demand the hell out of you. So the kind of films that you watch mostly is not really, that kind of discipline is required. The concentration, discipline of concentration is the most, I guess, the most difficult than flying a rocket. That how focused are you at any given time, and that makes you a greater actor. The intensity of presence in the here and now. And that's the most difficult thing in the world. I mean, the greatest of this actor, the rishis and the saints of India and across the globe, they had dwelled upon that all the time. So because of my practice, I got a bit better in acting, and because of that, probably I keep getting roles, and I still, I'm still in the seek me. I live in Delhi. I never, touch wood, I never went to Bombay to seek for work. They have always come to Delhi to give me work. So how lucky can I be? That's the last sentence of the first question, the answer of the...
Thank you so much. I think, so you started with an existential journey, like answering questions on existentialism, and how spirituality helped you answer some of the questions in your spiritual quest. But finally you gave us the takeaway that when you act, and that could apply to anyone who's a surgeon who can be doing a surgery, or an anchor doing anchoring, that you're so immersed in the present that you're more of yourself when you are in the act. You mentioned practices. Like you said, spiritualism is more than reading books, and theorizing is really a practice. And I won't say just for people in the age of 50 or 60 who are hearing this, but for all of us alike, I think spirituality, concentration, it's useful and necessary for all of us. What advice would you give to the people who might want to know what entails living a mindful way?
I think the first thing which could be that you have to... Nature, when I say nature, I mean everything. Anything that can be conceivable. What you dream, what you see, what you feel, what you see or experience through your five senses is nature, which includes also human beings. I am not part of nature, I am nature. You are nature. So anything which is, when I say nature, I mean nature would give you indications, suggestions, experiences where a human being, anybody in the world, anywhere, would get an opportunity to ask a question. Oh, I thought about you and you called. Or I should have gone that way, but I went this way and I met you. And these occurrence have happened to probably everybody. And then if you don't listen to it, the nature would give you a tiny, it's a tap on your back, on your wrist, hello. And then slowly, if you don't listen, and again you continue doing what you are doing, which is not really your best self or best behavior, best action from your highest self, or what you consider would be your best self, then nature comes to you and gives you a tight slap, and you're like, why it happening to me? Or a kick on the butt. I got few kicks on my butt, and it's not like it happened to me. It happens to everybody. And then when we start asking question, why me? What have I done? Why do I deserve this? Do I deserve that? If we deserve to breathe, if we deserve to get a meal, 3 meals a day, then we don't question that. Do I deserve this? But when we have pain, then we question, oh my God, why it's happening to me? They say the pain is a tool to carve your heart to contain more joy. Pain, nature uses pain to wake you up from your slumber of unconsciousness, slumber of laziness, slumber of ignorance. So I think first thing that the question that you asked me, the first thing one should do is one could probably, like when it happens to you, whatever, something which you cannot explain, like, oh my God, what does that happen? How come I'm so lucky to see this amazing sunset? You know, that's also, I mean, it's magical. I live in GK1 and I was looking through the window of my living room and I see this amazing peacock sat on this green, just lush green creepers. And I was like, oh my God, why am I so lucky? In Delhi, you know, out of all places. I come from Assam. Of course, I grew up with green around me. I grew up swimming on in the pond. But here, what have I done in my life to deserve this? So to have gratitude, constant gratitude within oneself for the things that you already have. The things you don't have, maybe you don't deserve it. Not yet. Or maybe you don't need it even. So if you have these questions coming in, then search. Go for it. Look for it. You'll find the right books at the right place. You'll find the right man. You'll find the right situation, a right predicament. Then you would probably, once you start following that, in this context, I would like to say, I can see a -0 there. It's quite a thing, you know, the time. Like, you're like, oh, okay, am I talking too much? The thing that which I have noticed, first of all, I want to thank everybody, all the panelists here, for educating me about what is happening in the medical and health industry. I didn't know. I do not have a health insurance. I'm 61 years old, or 60 plus years old, and I have been mostly treating myself with homeopathy and healing with my, so I'm one of the worst customer of medical science so far, and thankfully, I hope that you know, it goes this way till I am 95. I just buried my mom on the 10th of this month. She was 95 years old. And my father was 93 years old, and we buried him in 2003. So I know a little bit, you know, about healthcare in terms of taking care of elderly parents. Live in Delhi, I went every month to look at her, to be with her, and all the other details. But what the point I'm trying to make is that in all these what I heard, one of the most key element was that the emotional well-being of anybody, not only elderly, older people, also young people. In Ayurveda, they say that your emotional body and your immune system is intertwined like that. Your emotion goes down, your immune system goes down. Your immune system goes down, your emotions go down. So it's a downhill road if that happens. And I read that myself long back, around maybe 15 years ago, in a wonderfully written Ayurvedic book by an American who's an Ayurvedic doctor who studied here in India, in Kerala. And I was like, wow. And why I'm mentioning this is that how it is interrelated. And I was like, wow, imagine all the people, or at least 75% of the people in the world had actually followed their dream, what they actually want to be, looking at Dancing Dadi. If we had always followed what we really want to be, like I have like at least 50 doctor friends, and they didn't want to be doctors. They wanted to be a singer or a gardener or a carpenter or a teacher, but they became doctors. I have got advocate friends. My two brothers are advocates, but two of them are brilliant singers. They would have actually pursued singing, but they had to pursue whatever they pursued because it was imposed upon them. They didn't have the strength to fight back. I was asked by my dad to do masters, to pursue English language and become a professor in the local college. I said, no, Dad, I don't want to. And I followed my dream to be an actor. And I didn't get paid for 25 years. I didn't get paid, nobody knew me, and nobody gave a damn about me. But I pursued it because I loved it. So what I'm trying to say is that imagine a population of the world of 75% at least, if they would have pursued what they love to do, they wouldn't have fallen ill so easily. So the healthcare system wouldn't have been burdened with such disastrous way, in a way that it's weighing, like we don't know what's going to happen from the statistics that we saw after 2050. It's disastrous. So we need to think how we allow our offspring to flourish what they really want to do. Can we facilitate that? I think in terms of prevention is not only, of course, it is to do with food and your exercise and all that, but right from childhood, if we allow our heart to be looked after, like what we really want to do, and how well we can do, and how can we facilitate. So rethinking and remodeling the education system in India is the worst in the world. Indian education system is the worst in the world. It's so bad that I had been so vocal that my son goes to a school I don't want to name, and I keep writing them emails that, can you change? Can you allow my son to do that? And anyway, so that's what I wanted to say. It's so interrelated how we have given up Gurukul system. That, you know, my acting teacher is a carpenter. He loved carpentry and he loved acting, both the subjects. And he has become now world-class carpenter. And he is the youngest son of one of the first diplomats of India, Badruddin Tayyibji, his youngest son, his mother who brought the Ashok Chakra in our flag, in Indian national flag. And he's one of the finest carpenters that I've ever met. And he's happy. And he is like, man, he's like 7 years older than me, he's 67, 68. He can still do handstand and he can walk on his hands. And he's running around like a squirrel. Anyway, so I can keep going. And
This
I
has
think
been
it's -4.
very, very immersive conversation, and I would like to, I think this is a great note to end on. And as you said, for not only, I would say not only for the young ones, but for those in the 50s and 60s who are watching this, if they haven't been able to make the right choices, if they haven't been able to, they can still do that. They can still pursue their passion, pursue their heart, and maybe having that, living that purposeful life can contribute to their emotional and well-being, which then contributes back to improved health outcomes. On that note, thank you so much.
Thank you.
For
Thank
a
you so much
wonderful,
for having me.
wonderful
Thank you.
conversation. Thank you. All right, so for our final panel, we will be focusing on transforming senior living in India through financial aid, assistive care, health tech, and inclusivity. This discussion will explore how to improve elder care services through strategic investments, innovative technologies, and inclusive practices. Our esteemed panelists will share insights and solutions to enhance the quality of life for seniors in India. For this final and interesting panel, may I please invite on stage Ms. Mithali Nikor. She is an economist and founder of Nikor Associates. Mithali is a pioneering economist with over 12 years of experience in gender mainstreaming, development finance, and sustainable infrastructure. She advises major organizations like the World Bank and G20 bodies. Honored with the Indian UK Achievers Honours and named among Forbes 22 for 2022 industry leaders, she was also recognized as one of the 75 Indian women in STEM by the Indian government. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us. Then we are joined by Mr. Sudhir Mathur, who's the CEO and founder of Mirador. Please, a big round of applause for Mr. Mathur. Mirador, as you all know, has been working on elderly care. Mr. Mathur has a strong background in the finance sector. He's been the CFO in major companies like Aircel, Idea Cellular. He's also an MBA from Cornell and has done specialized studies in financial management from the Harvard Business School. Thank you so much. And our final speaker for the panel is Mr. Ishan Khanna, CEO of Antara Assisted Care Services. He has nearly 2 decades of experience across healthcare, where he has established organizations from the ground up and scaled them into profitable business models. Mr. Khanna, his notable achievements across his professional career include launching community-called blood banking model, establishing the diagnostic business in LifeCell in 2013, and finally augmenting it to be the top mother and child diagnostic player in the country. So with that, let's get to action. Maybe start with Mr. Khanna. Not very many people, and I'm sure this applies to a lot of people who do not come with a health background. When we say assisted care services, break that down for us. Like unbundle, what should it mean to us when we hear assisted care services?
Okay, this is an easy one. I think when you look at care for seniors, right, we would largely like to break it down into two main buckets, I would say. One is caring for them at home. A lot of seniors want to age at home. They want to be taken care of at home. This is what we call as care at home or home care services. Their assistance would mean just having a patient caregiver coming to them, just taking care of their daily needs, right? Helping them shower, have a bath, helping them move around. People who need more assistance, especially suffering from medical conditions, they need nursing care. And then when you go a step further, people who are really sick may also need setups like ICU at home. That is assisted care, but that's at home. You also have other services that can be provided like physiotherapy, etc. All of that can be done at home. But there's another element where there are a lot of seniors who can't be taken care of at home. And there are various reasons for that. Either they're living by themselves, but they need care and there's nobody available. Or the level of care that's required is potentially not available at home. And then they would consider something which we call as assisted living facilities. And these assisted living facilities or care homes, as one would call them, is where somebody would want to move either short-term or long-term. Short-term would be, pre-operative or post-operative. Or, if I'm living with my family, but the family is traveling for, say, a couple of months, and I need to be taken care of, I could move there for a short period of time. Long-term movements would potentially happen for seniors who are living by themselves, families away. They need care of either a patient caregiver or a nurse or a hospital setup or a hospital-like setup. They move into these assisted living facilities, and the duration could be anything from 6 months to a couple of years to the rest of their lives. So assisted care potentially is anything that would, that goes beyond living independently. If I can take care of myself independently, I can be at home. But any form of care I need beyond that is assisted care, which could either be delivered to me at my home or in an assisted living facility.
All right. Okay, so you've established assisted care services. Let's say that's our universal set. Now my next question to you, Mr. Mathur. Within Mirador, within the umbrella of assisted care services, what are the specific services and functions that Mera Doc offers to the elderly, and how do you think it's been a unique solution?
Well, delighted to be here first. I think we didn't intend to start off as being in the senior or elder care business. Where we started off was to essentially be a family doctor practice, revive the family doctor. And the main reason for that was, it was a dying art. And a lot of issues in India tend to be genetic. People have started going to specialists through a Google search, etc. And specialists, much as they're doing their job exceedingly well, they tend to be myopic on their issues, and there is nobody to be an overall, a helping hand on the family health care. So we were lucky. I shouldn't use the word lucky. Dr. Mahajan introduced us to Varish Nagrik, and the whole idea was to do a camp for the elderly, in which this thing. And which was, blood pressure, instant sugar, any issues, medical issues that somebody would be facing. It started off as just a camp, but we learned a lot. As well as in that camp, as we disseminated to each other the information next day, we followed, I would say, a standard corporate thing, put yourself in the customer's shoes. And as you heard, I heard right through the day, what is really the need of a senior care person was the overarching question. And much as what we learned in the camp and our own experiences with our parents, grandparents, etc. And we discovered something which should have been intuitive, but explicitly never said out. Let's take somebody between 65 to 70 and you've superannuated. There is nobody coming to you and saying, ma'am, मैं ये क्या करूँ, मैं इस problem में फंस गया, sir, what can I do? You have nobody to say, why didn't you do it this way? And there is a whole social and personal ecosystem around you that develops with 40 years of working. All that is gone. You've invested very heavily in your kids' education, their marriages. Your assets have depleted. Your kids have probably in this world gone away for their pursuit of their own career and their own families to look after now. And and as Dr. Amrish said right in the beginning, your muscle mass is depleting. Your body mobility, which you never cared about till the time you were working, we were all enjoying our jobs, right? At that time, if I had sugar or a lipid profile issue, I never cared about it. You just say, pop a pill and it's over and done with, right? But now it's beginning to bother me. And by the time you're 70, you see your friends and family members sort of passing away. Now, all your entire ecosystem around you start disintegrating, right? And simple things, right? मेरे को नींद नहीं आई, right? Constipation, they're all become a routine issue. And when you look at that, the first thing in care that you realize is for the same clinical issue, if a person is 60, 65, 70, please, is about training the doctor. Same clinical issue when you're 40, the doctor needs to learn to talk to you differently, to feel the issues. It's a simple fever, right? There is nothing wrong. But learn to have a conversation, right? And I think the first thing we did was to reset our consultation time to a bare minimum of 15 minutes. It's about having just learn to talk to the person. Kuch nahi hai, right? Probably needs a dolo, that's it, right? But having that conversation was the first big change. And, I don't know whether Nanki is here or not, but with ProTribe, we work with caregivers. And it's training the caregiver. So it's not an event of a medical issue. It's not about prevention. It's, as I said, it's about balancing the emotion and the physical. It's just the feeling level issue. I find it difficult to describe it in words, but, and you just say, in office, we would just say, you're all going to get there. just learn to treat the other person as you want your mother to be taken care of, right? And I think that made a huge difference to our learning. And I would like to point out what Dr. Mahajan, because we do this, family history is very important to us. Family medical history, the individual's history is very important, right? Because you have to combine the two to offer clinical care and must be available to a doctor in the middle of the night, right? To be able to say, ki nahi yaar, aisi koi problem nahi hai, or the guy needs to be rushed to hospital now, right? And therefore prescribing, not prescribing, even if somebody says, I go get a diagnostic, are you making sure that the diagnostics test the individual is going for is in line with the person's medical history and followed up certainly persistently for a call, this is what the diagnosis is about, right? I think these are things we try and do, but I think the forgotten piece of it is a caregiver, be it a family member, be it a third party, right? They need to be trained and they are handling a difficult situation at times, right? And we need to get them to vent the issues that they go through. You know, you see so many families in which if there is a cancer, who's going to look after, you know, if somebody has cancer, son, daughter, son-in-law, you know, all these things happen. And I think managing that part. So it's, you know, the doctors also have to, you know, we try and get them to talk to a clinical psychologist as well, right? Ki, you know, take it easy, yaar, kuch, we have to. And so I think that's, and, you know, regular medication.
No, I think, thank you so much. I feel that all the panels and all fireside chats are sort of now converging, as you rightly said, to stop treating them as patients, but talking to them as human beings to begin with. And I'm sure that must have contributed a great deal to the unique solution that you have. Since you talked about services, Mithali, and this is an interesting question. You've done your research and you've looked at data, you've looked at elderly care services. From the perception and perspective of the elderly, what types of elderly care services are the most preferred, at least in the Indian context?
So I think, you know, what both of my co-panelists just said, it's very interesting because what we've been doing at Nikor Associates for the last 3 years is researching something we characterize as the care economy. Because we're not looking at the care economy only from the perspective of the elderly or the children, or, you know, from the perspective of long-term dependent adults, because that's another massive category of people, you know, who require care. But we are looking at it also from the perspective of the women who are primary caregivers in 90% of cases. When we looked at Government of India data, we actually found that women are spending, on average, 5.6 hours every day on unpaid care work, and men only do 30 minutes. So now, when the gender gap is so massive, it's also a lever to invest in care services, childcare, elder care, and, you know, care of highly dependent adults and persons with disabilities, because that is a lever that can help unlock economic growth, increase in female labor force participation, and free up some of women's time as well. So we started our research from that perspective. And when we, you know, went around India, we partnered with the Ministry of Women and Child Development and the Gates Foundation, as well as, you know, CII. And all three organizations, we all went and we did these very large conferences across the country. Kerala was one of our most successful conferences because there it's a massive hub for elderly care services and community health care. And we found that, you know, of course, like you were saying, the number one preference is to age at home. And of course, in India, our family ties are so strong that aging at home is a strict preference. But the second thing we found, and in fact, you know, Samarth and Ashish ji were there with us in Ranchi when we were doing the conference. And we found that there is also a demand for something called multi-generational care facilities, where you don't just have elder care and, like this categorization of elderly persons as, oh, like you are elderly. Like, no. But actually having children, having people with disabilities, having elderly persons all coming together, engaging in community activities, engaging in leisure activities, having like playing some music together or just dancing together or creating a play together. I mean, these are, art. There's a huge demand for this. Now, the second issue that we found in all of this is the affordability. Because, of course, we'd all love to be at Antara. It's down the road from our house and we see it quite often. I tell my husband, we have to aim for that, huh? We have to earn this much. But since all of us cannot be at Antara, we clearly need to invest in, more affordable sort of elder care facilities and childcare also, but elder care facilities particularly, where you can get these services. And the pricing of that, the affordability of that, somewhere the government has to come in and provide support, especially for, the poorer, low-income segments, but for the middle class, which is the most forgotten, class of this country, and also the biggest taxpayer of this country since we are in budget season. At the end of the day, they require also aging in, in peace, comfort, and respect. And for that, we definitely need to see more and more public-private partnerships coming up so that there can be some private sector, community-based organizations that can provide elder care services. This brings me to the third aspect, which we learned through our research, which is around caregivers. And sir, you rightly said they need training. But before training, what we realized and what they spoke to us is that they need to be respected. Because a lot of caregivers, especially those providing at-home services for elder care, are treated with such disrespect by the family members, where they are told, "Acha, aap zara chai bhi bana dijiye." But that's not the work of the caregiver. The caregiver is a skilled professional. And again, there's nothing wrong with, a domestic worker doing their work. We, of course, have to respect domestic workers in their own way. But at the same time, the caregiver expects a different level of respect in the household, which at this point they are not getting. And a lot of girls especially are very scared to provide at-home services for elder care because, of course, it's one of those sectors which is attracting a lot of women workers. And when we speak to the women, they're saying, look, I went to this house, I'm told to care for an elderly gentleman, but I was harassed by, one of the family members. So now what do you do in that situation? You have no safety because this is still an unorganized sector. The other issue with care workers is that it's very hard to find male care workers. I'm sure you would have experienced that. Because there are so many other opportunities, even though this is a well-paying sector, the minute they can, they will leave India and they will go abroad. And of course, women will also do that, but males are more likely to do. Or they will move to another, sector. Because the patience required for this work, like sir was saying, is immense. So with all of these challenges, we definitely need governments to start stepping in, and we've been advocating with a lot of governments and ministries that they should prioritize elder care investments.
Right. No, I think those were very pertinent points, and of course research reflects the reality, and especially contexts also matter. Indian context is always going to be different. My question to you, Mr. Khanna, is that for anybody who's listening to us, if they have somebody at home, if they have an elderly person, they are looking to understand how to access assisted care services, what can individuals and families, like where to go, how to access such care, and what steps should they take and what should they be mindful of as they make these choices?
I think it's first of all very important to understand what's the need of the elder in the family. like we've heard a lot, sometimes it is first of all just to do with the fact that they need a sense of belonging, right? They need somebody to talk to. They need to not feel isolated. They need to feel like they're a part of a community. So I think first it's very important to discern, what is the problem we're addressing? Is it a physical health condition? Is it a mental health condition? Or is it just the need for engagement, being a part of a social community? We heard about some examples like second innings, etc., which are communities that are created in small hyper-local areas, which we should always, I would say, promote seniors to be a part of in our families, because it just gives them that sense of belonging. We heard about the travel, that's a great way for them to go bond. We heard about hobbies, like Ms. Ravi Bala was talking about, that they should pursue. But when you talk about now the assisted care piece, right, if there is the need for care, I think there again it's important to understand, where are your family dynamics today? Do you have enough infrastructure at home? Are you able to give enough time to take care of the elderly at home? And can the condition itself be taken care of at home? Because sometimes, in mental health conditions, it takes a lot out of the caregiver as well, to take care of that person because of the sheer nature of the condition. So I think it's first important to understand, okay, do I have enough infrastructure? Do I have enough time? Can I ensure the safety and security of the senior who's at home alone with a caregiver if I am out? And if the answer is yes, I can do all of that, the answer should be to have them taken care of at home. However, if you feel that the condition has gone to an extent, in both either mental or physical, that it needs higher care, you're not at home to supervise the care, it's always better to look at assisted living facilities outside, and you can always choose. I think now there are more mushrooming across the country. One can choose. Asli is a great platform for people to go and see where facilities are across the country. I think we have enough information on the web today to inform, and I think it's important for a caregiver to be sure of a couple of things, right? One is that if you are moving your senior or the patient in your family into a residential facility where they will be spending some time, please go check it out yourself. It's very important to go see the facility yourself. It's very important to make sure you meet the person who's handling the facility, who are the doctors, what kind of caregivers do they have. It's very important to do a background check because you are leaving somebody in the hands of an external caregiver and they're going to be spending their entire 24 hours there. It's very, very important to do your checks. Even when you're calling somebody at home and you're not going to be around, you need to ensure that the people are properly background verified, that the companies that are providing those cares have enough checks and balances in place. Because like we were talking about safety and security of the caregiver, it's also the safety and security of the senior, because a lot of times they'll be alone at home. Does the company or the organization have the right infrastructure in place? Because this, the problem with care in this care ecosystem, one thing that you, I think also did mention is there's very high attrition. There's very, very high attrition. You will end up having more than one caregivers if it's long-term care. And that's the sheer nature of how this care ecosystem works. So you need to be sure that, the one that you're working with can, get a replacement in, they have, their levels of management in place to take care of it. So it takes a lot, by the way, I mean, what I'm trying to say, to let, your loved one be taken care of by someone else, whether it's at home or in a facility. And I think you just got to make sure your research is thorough. You need to make sure that all compliances, checklists are in place. You've seen the facility as much as you could have. And just be sure that, it's a compliant, safe, secure place where you're sending your loved one to.
I think those were very, very practical tips for anybody who's listening to this session and is at that decision point where they want to provide or go for assisted care services for their loved ones. Any final thoughts from you, Mr. Mathur, on how to intelligently make this decision and sensibly make this decision, sensitively make this decision?
I think, you know, this becomes a bit of a personal decision. It is a lot based on money. It is, but, you know, one of the topics was accessible and affordable. I think most of us in the foreseeable future of a decade or so will be at home. I think there's still a lot of social taboo around अपने माँ बाप को assisted living में भेज दिया. I think it will take time to disappear. It will, without any doubt. In the meantime, I think, you know, whatever improvements we can do at home as doctors or advisors to families and senior members, you know, basic things, remove rugs from your house, एक बारी घर की, you know, handles wherever possible, 0-watt lighting for night, right? These basic things, you know, one has to put into place. And I think this huge emotional bonds with the children, while it has a very positive role for much of your life, but I think that also needs to reshape itself. कि अब, you know, I stay with my parents. अभी भी ask, बच्चों के लिए कुछ चाहिए, मेरे को बता दो. You know, and, you know, I say for, you know, I really can't relate to it, right? And I think with my finance background and a little bit of practical sense, I think India may, as much as insurance is needed, but the whole concept of a reverse mortgage for houses need to be bought in much more strongly. You know, I spent my years building a house, मेरे दिमाग बच्चों को छोड़ना है, ये करना है. But if I can draw down up to 70% against the market value of my house, I'll enjoy a great life, and whatever is left, it's for my children, right? But to think that my biggest asset that I have, my property, is not monetizable in my own life for my well-being is placed with financial fragility in everybody's mind. I think you know, you'll become a lot more secure as a country. This thing, and not just कि, you know, सरकार ने क्या करा मेरे लिए. Governments have limited means. They have very little they can do, right? But this system needs to be brought in place. And as far as caregivers are concerned and their roles are increasing, and we've talked about it, I think it's important that we create a message as much as we can. They need to find a place in my will, right? They have cared for me, right, to my last day, and I need to make them a part of my whatever I'm leaving behind, not just people intimate to me by blood.
Wonderful. I think that brings us, on that note, I don't have much to say from here, but thank you so much for such an inspiring, vivid, and a very experiential sharing of lessons from leaders of the industry, from economists. I think your own personal experiences and professional experiences converge very, very beautifully to share the wonderful insights that we had. Thank you so much for joining us for this session. Thank you so much. All right. All right. So we know it's been a long day, a long session. we finally come to the final session, the final program on the summit before we go on to conclusion. For the final fireside chat, we will be joined by Mr. Rajit Mehta, MD and CEO of Antara Senior Care, to discuss the future of senior living. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. Have a seat. So, sir, for this final session, and as you've seen, we've covered so many topics, touched upon so many sectors and aspects of elderly care. I have 3 simple questions. I mean, simple in the sense that they're short questions. I'm sure they have long answers, but top 3 questions, because, you know, now that we conclude the sessions, we want to get the quick takeaways. So the first question to you, literally it's like a rapid fire, but the first question to you, sir, Antara, as we all know, is a venture owned by Max India. It operates independent senior living and retirement communities across India. Established in the year 2011, it has garnered significant media attention as one of the pioneering organized projects in retirement and assisted living sector, a domain often stigmatized by conservative segments of the society. Now, with that context, and you are sort of well and best placed to answer these, you know, big picture questions. The first one, how is the demography of the Indian population really changing? And what is it that people with no healthcare, public health research background, what should they know about it?
Thank you. First of all, my compliments as well to Times of India. I think it's about time that all stakeholders came together to create a robust and integrated care ecosystem for seniors. Because India's demographics are really, you know, yelling out loud for urgent attention to this sector. If you look at, you know, our country today, we have about 130 million odd people who are seniors. And by the way, that's more than the population of Japan already, right? And by 2050, 1 in 5 Indian will be a senior, and the number will be about 330 million. That's quite staggering, you know, from any standards. Now add to that the fact that 70% of these people have some comorbidity or the other. 25% of them cannot even do their daily activities of life. And we did an interesting research during COVID, and we saw some subtle changes in their behavior. One, they're becoming more tech savvy, so they can use Facebook, YouTube, WhatsApp video calls. So that's one change. Secondly, as Ashish, I think, mentioned in the beginning, they're spending more on leisure travel, pilgrimages, and wellness. So they're spending much more on wellness and supplements than they were earlier, right? And that's what COVID has taught them. So if you look at these demographics and you add to it now the fact that the good old Indian joint family community care system has broken down because more children are NRIs, people are staying alone, right? And this is not a heterogeneous, you know, set of people, because the needs of seniors vary with age, medical condition, and income, right? So from any standpoint, this sector is already about $10 to $15 billion in size. And that's a large number, right? Niti Aayog released a report in February 24, where they said the sector is $7 billion. Colliers came out with a report only for independent senior living. They said India needs about 18 lakh units for seniors. We only have about 30,000 right now. That's $2 to $3 billion. And if you look at seniors spending $4,000 to $5,000 a month on wellness, that's about $5 billion. So any way you look at it, the issue in India is not the size of the market. The issue in India is always, can you spot value pools where you can create sustainable, relevant business models to address the pain of seniors? So that's on the demographic front.
All right, okay. Now, then that brings us to the challenges. If there were top 1 or 2 challenges that you see that we need to address more at a systemic level in India?
Surely, I think the first one really is, and there was a discussion on this earlier as well, is the issue of financial security. Because 78% of India does not have a pension scheme, right? So the seniors are either dependent on their savings or on children. And that's not a nice feeling, you know, always. So either we look at things like maybe increasing the retirement age, both in government and in private sector. Some private sectors already moved on that front. The retirement age is now 60 and 62 or 65 on that side. Reskilling, upskilling, there's an interesting move by the Ministry of Social Justice where they set up a portal for second innings employment for seniors. There's an interesting organization in Bangalore called Wisdom Circle, which is connecting seniors who want re-employment with people who want to hire them, right? So that's quite nice. Insurance, I think the Health Minister, J.P. Nadda ji, announced that from September, Ayushman Bharat will cover seniors 70 years and above. That's a welcome move. IRDA recently removed the age cap on health insurance. They've removed that cap so seniors can buy health insurance. More and more such products need to come out, and we are working on that. I think Sudhir referred to reverse mortgage. That product never took off in India. I hope it does. So first challenge really is financial security. The second, I would say, which Neha mentioned, I think, in the first session, is capacity to serve. So our learning, and since I come from the healthcare sector, has been that, like for a child, you need 1.5 person to look after the child. Same is true for an elder, by the way. So if you have 130 million elders, where do you get these 18, 19 crore of caregivers, which will become 45 crores caregivers? Impossible. So whether we retrain Asha workers, Anganwadi workers, there's an interesting idea we've been toying up, which can we build an application for college students to volunteer just time and companionship for seniors, whether we could do that. The Healthcare Sector Skills Council, the ASLI and DIA, Dementia and Alliance, are working very hard to look at curricula, content and design for training. So capacity building, I would say, is the second biggest challenge. Third, I would say, is the area of healthcare. There was some talk Commodore Bali made to all aspects of wellness. And since I'm a caregiver to my parents, my dad is now 95 and my mom is 91. She's a dementia patient. God bless them for what they've given me. But each time you go to a hospital, the hospital is not geared towards geriatric care, right? Because a senior requires a multidisciplinary consult. It requires a neuro consult, a nephro consult, an internal medicine consult, an orthopedic consult. Without that, you can't, do the complete consult. So we're not geared towards, that. So I think looking at integrated, models of senior care is an interesting experiment that Antara is doing. We launched a platform called Age Easy. As the word reflects, helping seniors age with ease and joy. So for all chronic diseases like hypertension, diabetes, joint pain, gut disorders, seniors need not go to a hospital. So we're trying to create a store which has products for seniors where they can do it yourself. They can do a diagnosis on the net, figure out what they need, go to a store, buy the product they need. If they need assistance, we have assistance for them as well. Okay. So things like that we'll have to put in place for healthcare, for this complete system to come in place. So financial issues, capability building, and alternate models of healthcare are the top 3 challenges, I would say.
Right. And I know that you did touch upon the solutions or hinted at the solutions while talking about the challenges, but final quick thoughts on some of the key solutions that Antara is leading, or where you think that cutting edge technologies are coming in, or where do you see that the inflection point in terms of transformation of elderly care is going to be coming from?
Yeah, I think we didn't talk about it much in this conference, but if you look at the entire ecosystem of people providing senior care, it's a very interesting mix. There is independent housing for seniors who are generally well but want to stay in a like-minded community with all safety and security. Then you have assisted living for seniors who need help on a daily basis for activities of daily life. You have memory care, right, for people with dementia, Alzheimer's or Parkinson's. You have care at home, and then you have products and aids for seniors. So if you look at this entire system, actually there are about 60, 70 players in India already doing different models. There are people looking at creating communities for seniors like Genwise and Khayal. There's Anvaya doing remote-based senior care. There is concierge services, right? So what we have done at Antara, and technology, by the way, is a big answer. So while somebody said that these models don't work in India, unfortunately, there's no way out for India because we won't have so many caregivers. Yeah. So if you look at the outside world to take a learning, you already have, so we're working with an Israeli company called Owletics. So they have an interesting software on a watch where you can almost build a model where you track a senior's proclivity to a fall. So depending on your blood pressure, your saturation level, they can almost predict a fall will happen. And if a fall happens, an alert will go to the caregiver. So we launched that watch recently. It's available on our website, also on Amazon. We can detect falls for seniors. Then there are now, a lot of medical pill boxes with alerts built in for adherence, to medicine for seniors. Japan, of course, is very evolved. There are robotics now because there's a robot called Paro. There is, Replica. There is Pepper by SoftBank, which can provide companionship, conversations, touch and gestures for seniors to take care of loneliness, right? There's an interesting knee brace launched by the hospital in Pune called Sancheti, where it has a chip. It can give you neuromuscular electrical stimulation for the knee pain, and also track your knee activity to figure out the brace if needs adjustment. It's happening right in India under our nose, right? So I think technology is a big answer. There are GPS-controlled wheelchairs now, which you can do. So like that, we are a great believer in leveraging technology for providing remote-based monitoring and healthcare access for wellness of seniors. So I think India will see a lot of these things coming in because we have no choice, frankly. We don't have the caregivers. So I'm hoping some of this will come into India and help us alleviate and address the pain points seniors face to really have them live with self-respect, dignity, and joy.
Wonderful. Now, as you rightly said, given the Indian scale, technology will have to be part of the solution. And I'm so glad that in our final session, we did cover the elephant in the room, which is technology and cutting-edge solutions. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before we conclude the session, may I please invite Mr. Prasad Sanyal, Business Head, timesofIndia.com, to give us the concluding address. Sir, please.
Thank you. Good evening, gentlemen and ladies. As we come to the conclusion of this remarkable event focused on senior living, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to each one of you for your presence and the unwavering support we have from our sponsors, Antara, Samarth Elder Care, Epoch Elder Care, and the Association of Senior Living in India. We have delved into insightful sessions, explored innovative solutions, and shared inspiring stories that underscore the importance of creating a nurturing, vibrant, and dignified environment for our elders. The insights gained and the connections made here today will undoubtedly propel us forward in this noble mission. As we leave here today, let us carry forward the spirit of compassion and dedication. Let us strive to build communities that are inclusive, supportive, and enriching our seniors. Thank you once again for being part of this significant event. Safe travels, and may we continue to work together for a brighter future for our senior citizens. Thank you.
Yes, they are. You know it, so do we. It's hard to believe, right? The once mighty arms that could lift anything, even you, are turning weak. The lips that commanded attention, right? The once mighty arms that could lift anything, even you, are turning weak. The lips commanded attention, discipline, and dedication are slowly trembling. Wearing. The ones who took care of us through sickness and health now need care from us. But you cannot be with them all the time. You too have to lay the foundation, pay your taxes, build your own family. You have to now step into your parents' shoes. This is where we at Samarth step in. Present in over 350 cities across India, we extend our services to Indians in over 30 countries. We have a team of more than 350 care professionals and a network of emergency ambulances, hospitals, clinics, and providers across the country to provide healthcare for your loved ones. We help you take care of your parents even when you're not there. We make regular visits, keep a tab on their health and safety, take them for their appointments, help them pursue their interests, provide companionship so they are assured that their children are always around to look after them. We take care of them the way you want to, and we keep you updated from every interaction we have so you don't miss out on anything. With Samarth, you no longer wonder if you're doing enough. You're proud that you're doing so much more. Not just in times of need, but also in times of joy. Samarth makes your best efforts even bigger and your biggest worries a little smaller. Samarth, touching hearts, enriching lives. Parents, the beacon of our existence. The ones who never got tired, never got sick, never stopped doing what's best for us, are turning old. Yes, they are. You know it. So do we. It's hard to believe, right? The once mighty arms that could lift anything, even you, are turning weak. The lips that commanded attention, discipline, and dedication are slowly trembling. The infectious energy that kept the entire home in order is wearing. The ones who took care of us through sickness